All right, this is the Appointments Committee meeting, May 1st, 2024, for ad hoc committees. This meeting is being recorded and will be rebroadcast on the Town of Barnstable Government Access Channel in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20. The chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, please make your presence known.
Nobody online today.
No, they'll probably be joining soon, I'm sure. Roll call, counselors. Bloom.
Here.
Turkelson.
Here.
Mendez.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Burdick. You have quorum.
All right. Public comment?
I don't see any, Mr. Chair, and these are applicants, so.
Unless anyone wants to be.
Right. Christina Silva?
She's gonna be joining us, oh, she's not here. She's not here.
Snuck in behind.
Hi, Christina, I'm Jack. Nice to meet you.
Kristen, nice to meet you.
Charlie, nice to meet you.
And Chris. Yes, we have a quorum of Chris. I know.
Kristen.
Christina. You got it covered.
All set. Okay, so if you've been paying attention to what's going on around town, you have a lot of different issues.
Yes.
So what I'm gonna ask you about is compromise. If you can give me an example in your professional life when you had to compromise.
Oh, sure. See, I work with the Y Achievers program at the YMCA Cape Cod. So a lot of it obviously has to do with getting out in the community and having a lot of relations with that so that the youth gets every opportunity that they can. So, and sometimes some of the businesses that we work with don't exactly see eye to eye with a lot of the views or decisions that the YMCA has made. But we tend to stick to the program and why we're reaching out to that specific business. And like for them to focus on what we're asking them to do for the program, not specifically for the YMCA, and have them leave their focus at what the goal is. So if we're reaching out to help the youth, it's not what you can do for the Y, it's what you can do for them. So that's where we kind of try to shift it so that they're not feeling as though they're doing something that's against what they believe in or their morals or their values, but they also feel like they're doing whatever they are intending to do with the youth in our community. So I just feel like there's always some type of middle ground somewhere. It's just hearing the perspective of other people and trying to figure out where that common middle ground is. And for me, it's the youth of the community.
Great. I see you're interested in housing.
Yes.
In your opinion, and there's no wrong answer to this question. What do you think is the biggest impediment of housing in town?
I think the amount of rentals, houses that are just seasonal around here that don't leave a lot of availability for those who do live here year round. I believe that has a lot to do with the housing issue that we're having here. Prices of housing. I just feel like it's so hard. I'm a single mom and it's tough to stay here. And I've grown up here my whole life. And I know a lot of people who have gone through all of the Barnstable school system and become successful, great people and have to leave. And I just think that that's really unfortunate. And we're missing out on a lot of great people. But
Okay, thank you, Council Clark.
Thank you very much. So what motivated you to volunteer or step forward for this program at this time?
well, like I said, I've grown up here. I also have 3 children. They're in the Barnstable school system that I would like to remain here. And if the housing rate increases, I don't really see that happening for them. My oldest daughter, she's into music, so she's aspiring to be a musician. As we know, until you make real big money, musicians don't make a lot. So unfortunately for her, if she does want to follow that career of being a musician and it's not something that brings in a lot, she's unfortunately going to have to move on. And I would really love to keep my roots here where I grew up. So that's my main reason. That
Have you paid attention to what the housing committee has done in the past
I have, yes.
and how so?
I've attended a few of the meetings. I have spoken at public comment a couple of times, just stressing my concern of keeping the great people here. You know, why put all this energy and effort into making people great and then seeing them leave? And I just think it's a really unfortunate thing. We need we need people here to run our restaurants and to have, you know, a prosperous economy here and for all of us to live successfully. So I just feel like, housing is such a big part of that. And I'd like to help with that in any way that I can. And I've also seen a lot of people come in and public comment and be very passionate and, you know, angry, you know, about the situation that's going on. And I feel like there's just kind of a disconnect that's there, and they're obviously feeling that they're not being heard. So I just kind of feel like that something is missing, and maybe we can work together to try to figure that out.
I do hear, and I'm listening to all the public comment. But I understand, folks who have concerns,
Yes.
to express,
Mhm.
but I find that there's, what do I want to say? Not a recognition of looking for solutions
Right.
or, digging in to help be part of the solution. So I think that is a concern from where I sit, that I do recognize. I personally have family members with housing insecure situations. And so it's not that I'm not empathetic, it's just that I'm saying that we need, instead of scolding, we need some solutions and
Absolutely.
options to explore, creative ones. If you were not selected for this committee, would you still be engaged and participate and inclined to come to those meetings?
Absolutely.
And I do think that public participation in a orderly way has a more value than I think people feel. That if they're not a voting member, then why bother? I think that there's a lot to be said for people who come to meetings that don't have to be there, and they are moved to come to help express or shape a discussion and evaluation. So
Absolutely.
I'm glad to hear that you're willing to stay engaged. Thank you.
Yes.
Councilor Jefferson.
Just want to make sure you can all hear me. As far as just looking at your application,
Yes.
it says 1 year as a special programs / volunteer coordinator at the Homeless Prevention Council. Can you tell me a little bit about the Homeless Prevention Council?
Sure. Homeless Prevention Council, their main mission is to obviously end homelessness. They deal with the lower Cape. I actually got an internship when I was pursuing my associate's degree at Four Seas. What I did there was running their special programs, which is their backpack to school program, as well as their adopt a family program. So all the families that were in need of any backpacks or supplies or sneakers, they would come through case managers and do an intake, and then it would come through me, and I would coordinate their school, their grade, what their supplies that they needed were, what size sneakers they needed, and appropriate gift cards to give them so that they were able to buy a nice pair of sneakers. Because we know $50 gift card is not going to go as far for a fourth grader as it is for an eighth grader. So that was part of my duties there. And then as far as the holiday, the adopt a family, I would do kind of the same thing. The case managers would take the families that are in need, and I would match them with donors from the community. And we would have a great pickup day, and it was always a great day because everybody's happy and they're picking up their packages. And so that's mainly what I did there. But their focus there is they do a lot of, they'll house the unhoused in hotels. They reach out a lot at soup kitchens. They do a lot to either support those who are on the bridge of losing their housing, or to give unsheltered individuals some kind of something until they can find more permanent housing.
Is there anything in particular that comes to mind when you think about an idea that you have to help with housing crisis that we're facing currently?
Question. I think that I don't have 100% solution. I feel like there are different pieces that would need different solutions. Like I feel like with our unhoused population, I feel like more of a self-sufficiency program for them, where they're housed until they're employed and able to be on their feet, with financial literacy, knowledge of supports in the community, so that if they do find themselves getting into a position where they could be unhoused, they know who to reach out to and what to do in those situations. As far as for the middle class, I think it's just what's available. I think there's just isn't things that are realistic, especially for if you're a single family home. I mean, you look at my income compared to what I would be paying. I have Section 8, thankfully, but if not, I don't know what I would do. So, I mean, I feel like that there are just a lot, and I don't have a solid solution right now. But I do feel as though if we sit down and kind of all collectively talk together about what we think our concerns are, then maybe we could come up with something so that, you know, things start to change.
Good, thank you.
Council Bloom.
Hi, I was going to ask a question similar to what Kristen just asked. What I was going to say is that you know, you've grown up here and as it says here, and you watched the change in available housing. And I was going to ask you because you also said earlier, that, some people aren't being heard and with regard to housing. And what are some of the things that you think that need to be highlighted for people? Do you think that, as you said earlier, the availability of housing, costs of renting or purchasing, can we get together in a community, in a committee rather, and successfully work together to come up with an answer to whatever issues we're going to be looking at? I'm concerned about that because I'm afraid, as other people have said, Chris Clark said earlier, I'm concerned that we're going to get together with with each other and we're not going to be able to produce something that everybody can stand behind. And in a way, if we produce, like, one side produces this report and the other side produces, that to me is a failure. There's one committee, there should be one report. And I just want people to understand that it's a real challenge,
Oh, yes.
and I think you could do it. Myself, I have no doubt that you can, and you speak very eloquently on the work that you've done already. And I get the feeling that you're just starting an arc of community service that would continue, I hope.
I hope so too. Thank you.
Yeah. That's all I have to say.
I think you covered it very well. Yeah, I see from your record that you are a renter. So you
Yes.
bring a different demographic to what we've already, been interviewed, of people who we've interviewed. If you don't mind me asking, how long did it take for you to, receive the Section 8 voucher?
It took me 8 years.
I'm here in one time, so yeah.
Yeah, it took a long time, and I've had it now for 10. So that was even then. I've heard it's even longer now of a wait.
We're sensitive to that. I understand.
Yeah, that's
Well,
that's another-
congratulations, at least you were wise to jump on it when you, at that time.
Yes.
All right, thank
All
you.
right, thank you so much for coming
Thank
in.
you.
Have a good day, and you'll
too.
hear from us
Thank you very much.
soon,
Great.
either way.
Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you
Thank
too.
you.
Lauren Catherine?
Thanks.
No, we have Laura,
Lauren?
no, Laura Shufel.
Oh, hold
I
on.
know, Lauren is not here. We have Conrad and Lauren.
All right, Conrad.
You're now.
You're next on the line, so just write it down.
You want to get us confused. We have Laura and Lauren, we already got confused, right?
Pretty critical, that's right. How you doing, Conrad?
Very good.
Well, you were in here a month ago,
Yeah.
so I don't have to really go through my compromise, so you can already answer that. But the question I have for you is, in your opinion, what is the number one impediment of housing? And two, how can we improve zoning to make it more user-friendly?
I think that the new zoning that passed, is the key. the TD Bank building there, that development is gonna provide 120 units of housing to low workforce in market rate housing. That's gonna enliven the area. It's gonna put people on the street. It's gonna cause less traffic because people are gonna live on Main Street, and hopefully there'll be some markets put in. And I think that's just the beginning. I mean, it isn't a perfect program, but it's better than what we have now. I'm very, very, very concerned about Main Street and what's happened to it through the decades and how it's gone downhill. And I see a lot of rejuvenation. I see it coming back. I love Main Street. I'd like to see it come back, and I think that the only way it's going to come back is housing and diverse housing, not just fancy penthouses and things like that. And hopefully, with the economy and everything, and the price of materials and labor, you know, a lot will happen. I think that the TV project, the only reason it got done is because a lot of federal housing programs, and those people are experts at obtaining that. So,
All right.
yeah, I'd like to see, you know, I myself am not a builder. I rehab buildings. I've rehabbed a couple million square feet. And I think all of you know that the old Bay Bridge building, on the corner there,
Oh, yeah,
I own that.
yeah.
And that's the way it looks when I bought it. And this is the way it looks today. So I like to see older buildings rehabbed. I've done a lot of antique type buildings. I've done a lot of warehouses that could have been torn down and new buildings built, but I've saved them. Saved, I'm an environmentalist too. I've saved hundreds of thousands of trees. Used building materials that have reduced, you know, heat island effect. So I'm very much into conservation, environment, and successfully bringing back neighborhoods.
So you own property on Main Street, obviously.
Right.
And you rehab property on Main Street. And I don't know if I'm out of school by saying this, but I firmly believe that Main Street, the reason why it's in the condition is self-inflicted. Over regulations.
Yeah.
They've made it so it's not fun anymore.
Right,
And see, people have very short memories.
right,
As soon as they reach a particular age,
yeah,
they forget when they were younger and used to have fun on Main Street.
yeah,
And so what's happened is that, you know, over regulations, early closing times, we've taken what used to attract a younger demographic here. Now, when we were kids, you know, every neighborhood had some kids.
right,
Every neighborhood had some kids. And the way that would go is that people would come down with their families.
Yeah.
They would, you know, the parents would do their thing, the kids would work, bars, ice cream stores, beaches, wherever.
yeah,
It became cyclical. As soon as those kids reach college age, they come down with their friends, and then they have families, they come down.
Yeah.
But what's happened is that we've taken away the fun. We've taken away that demographic of 22 to 30.
right,
So they're not coming down with their families anymore. I mean, my own kids who are in their 30s don't come down here, and when they're here, they go to Plymouth, you know, or they'll go to Newport.
right,
And they're from.
Right.
So I agree with what you're saying as far as Main Street goes. Business isn't gonna bring Main Street back. Retail, those days are over,
right,
you know, when people just don't shop like that anymore. I
Right.
mean, of course, the ice cream shops and the tourism businesses.
Sure.
Yeah, of course. But I'm with you, we have to put feet on the ground on the street,
right,
because it's just, the commercial stuff just isn't there. That's why the mall is suffering.
right,
You know, you have to make it more of an event for people to shop there than just a storefront. Those days are over, so.
right.
That's me. Oh, yeah, exactly, sure.
when you say impediments, I agree 100%. Because there's so many regulations. And it's so expensive to build now. And it's mainly because of restrictive building codes, zoning. We have this young lady who's renting a space from us on the corner at 278. And she holds events, and she's the nicest person. And it's a very exciting thing she does. She brings people in and they have like 10, 20 people, and they do marketing and artwork. And, it was a use that is allowed in the area, but the building department came in and stopped us. And we have to go through site plan review. We've got to come up with all kinds of legal fees. And I mean, I don't know, I don't understand why they want to do this. But a vibrant young woman with minority who's just fantastic, and they just tried to stop her. You know, they have stopped her.
Do you know why it was that the department did that, or?
They're not sure of the zoning, and I think that's the main issue. You know, whether that's an allowed use, and they don't know what the use is, and they can't describe it, and so now she has to go through site plan review. And it's ridiculous.
So is it, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but kind of drilling down on what you're talking about. Is it that she's gonna have groups of people in there? Is that what it is? Or?
You mean why they're stopping?
Yeah, why they're stopping her. What-
It's right now it's considered office assembly use, which is what's allowed, and they have an excellent building inspector now in
And this is the building on the corner.
yeah, in
That used to be a restaurant.
yeah,
That was a store.
yeah,
I mean, it's been several things through
Yeah.
the years. So what are they
Yeah.
talking about?
it's ridiculous. So
You were talking about the excellent building inspector.
yeah, Ed Bowers.
Yeah.
He's really doing a great job. He came in and he's bending over backwards for us, as opposed to, you know, you're familiar with other inspectors in town, but he cited code. He said, you should be all set. There shouldn't even be a problem. They shouldn't even be questioning this. I don't want to get him in trouble.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the stuff you run into. And then there's the fire department, so many regulations. It's like, I don't know when the last time there was a fire, but the regulations just so onerous that a lot of people won't go in them. The reason I do, part of the reason that is selfish, why I do all the buildings, because everything's there, the utilities are there. You know, if the sprinkler system's there, the frame is there, you know, so you already have something to work with, whereas starting from scratch, you have to go through surveyors, architects, engineers, sprinkler engineers, and bringing new utilities into a site is extremely expensive. So when you have an older building and everything's already there, you're way ahead of the ballgame.
I'm gonna actually look into that. That's interesting, because like I said, I know for a fact, I used to get subs there when I was a kid, so I don't. Council Park?
Thank you very much. And thank you for your investment in Main Street. I'm a fan of recycling older buildings.
Yeah.
Taking blighted, I read your application, taking blighted properties.
Yeah.
Instead of developing virgin land to look around and
Right.
see what can be converted to a vibrant new use.
Right,
And I saw that you have marked down both housing and zoning as either of those committees.
right,
So you're still interested in
yeah.
either one.
Yeah.
How do you see rehabbing some of these buildings? Because I drive through with a notepad, and my husband's irritated with me because I'm writing down numbers of places that are for sale or underutilized.
Yeah.
And wondering if they could be a candidate for housing.
Right,
Especially as I've noticed, many banks are going from brick and mortar buildings to more online banking.
Yeah.
There's a couple banks in the area that are for sale. So how do you envision how your skill set can I'll address the housing in our whole town, not just Main Street?
well, the TD Bank building was a huge, ugly building,
Mhm.
and that's gonna be 120 units. So that's, with, you know, low income workforce and market rate. So it's gonna have a huge effect on it. I mean, imagine 120 apartments emptying into the street, people circulating around. I was talking to, well, I listened to Tom Carey yesterday at the Blue.
Blue economy.
Yeah, and, you know, he's developed quite a transportation system with Uber type transportation now, which is only $3 a ride, so people can get a ride to the mall. The bus system he has is really catching on throughout the 15 towns in the
Tom
Cape.
Kahir.
Yeah, Tom here, yeah. So, I envision, the person who owns the, Bread and Roses has the church building next door. There was a Brazilian church. And he was trying to get a market in there. And, he can get a loan. So I can see a marketing happening on Main Street where people can walk to it and, be able to buy, take groceries and things.
We did hear from other candidates who also referred to the TD Bank, proposal
Yeah,
about the concern for parking.
right. Well, it's within the new zoning. Whether or not all of those people will leave parking, I don't know, but it's huge lots up here.
And have you?
I don't think it's a huge issue,
Okay,
you know.
thank you. Have you paid attention to any of the zoning board of appeals meetings or housing committee meetings when they were happening, or checked the minutes? With the work that's already in the works?
Like I say, I haven't been involved in too many things where permitting, zoning, I've always avoided it. And this is probably one of the few projects, but I have watched the meetings and, no, I think housing, especially apartments, need to be addressed. I mean, really, it really is a crisis. And I hear so many people whose kids graduate from high school and they go live somewhere else. I don't know what the percentages are, but they're very.
Now, if you were not chosen for this committee, would you still be inclined to attend meetings or stay engaged or participate? Bring your voice.
I've really enjoyed it since I moved here permanently 15 years ago. More and more I've been watching what's going on. I've become involved. Yeah.
Because I do think there's value, even if you're not one of, we've had many candidates, we
Yep.
only have 4 slots to fill.
Right.
But I do think that public participation has a lot of value to shaping the discussions and evaluation.
Yeah, I can do that myself from what counselors. In other towns also have said that nobody shows up at the meetings and be much better if people do.
There's a lot of talent that
Yeah,
can help us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I see that under the section of financial interest that would potentially impact your ability to participate, you check no. But since you own a property that's a contested property already, and there's going to be maybe some review or discussion about form-based zoning, do you think that that might be a conflict of interest right off the bat, knowing that that's probably a piece of what's going to be going on in this committee?
I mean, me personally, I don't have any further involvement with any zoning issues. I mean, the deal in the bank is done. And I'm not looking to seek any zoning relief myself. I think that you know, it's kind of onerous that small people have to go through when they go through the zoning board. It's very expensive when they have to hire a lawyer and surveyors and things like that. Um, But I'm for housing, and I'm for less restrictive zoning, and I'm for eliminating a lot of regulations that are duplicative and nonsense.
Okay, thank you.
I think that your conversation with Jeff is the beginnings of another ad hoc committee to streamline zoning. I think that that's something to look into.
In conjunction with that, the building department also.
Whoever,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
whoever needs to get involved, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, I'm glad you put a couple of properties that aren't storage properties here. Salton Point, where is that?
it's in Barnstable Village.
Salton Point, okay. Main Street, and on the Main Street one, you know, the picture you showed us, what's in there now? Who's renting from you?
There's
That
a,
woman,
yeah,
yeah,
there's a 4-bedroom apartment upstairs.
yeah,
There's my 2 offices. There's a real estate firm.
mhm,
And we just rented to, I own the cafe next door.
Mhm.
And we, hired a woman to manage it that owns the Mayflower Bakery. And she's gonna run it, she just opened today.
Mhm.
She's gonna have breakfast and lunch. But she also rented an office in there, because she has three locations she's involved in. So she rented an office,
she's a busy person.
yeah. Smart lady, but, then it's my office, and I will live with her and one of her rooms there, and make some bowls and things.
Oh, well, there's a lot going
Yeah.
on there,
Busy.
yeah. You have a vision of Hyannis and I hope it comes true. But I see a lot of the vision is, you know, if there's a marketplace, if there aren't people with cars, if, you know, a lot of things like that, you know. So that may come to pass, who knows, you know, but my point is though, in this committee, can you work with people in a way that we're not relying on a final product that is too iffy? You know what I mean?
I would say so, yeah. I mean, all I do is compromise with people all day long, every day. I wouldn't get anything done if I didn't.
Yeah, because as I said earlier, that, you know, I'm concerned that, you know, we all have to, in these committees, if these committees are to be a success,
Yeah,
it's due to the people that are in them.
Right.
And their ability to, you know, to compromise is, the Chairman Mendes is always concerned about
yeah,
that issue too. And, I think it's important. We want to see these things succeed. Thank you.
All set?
all set.
I'd like to congratulate you for being the 2022 Hyannis Main Street Citizen of the Year.
Oh, thank you.
Now get back to
Thanks
nothing.
for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. Hope you come by.
I still have to do that.
Thank you.
Catherine Ledet.
Believe she was probably.
No, she won't be here, Seth and Catherine will not be here today. They're both working. Seth is a school teacher and he's got students till 4. And Catherine,
What's your name?
Laura, she thought.
Come on up.
and the other one is, working till 4, but we'll get her ASAP. That's what I've been doing, trying to email people to get them in here earlier, because you're going through these a lot quicker than you did yesterday.
I don't have Seth here.
Hi Laura, how are you? I'm Jack.
Nice to.
Nice to see you.
We met before? You look very familiar.
We have, I spoke to you about housing,
Okay,
a few months ago, in the summer, I think,
Okay. So you heard my question about compromise.
yes.
So can you give us an example in your professional life where you've got into compromise?
Sure. My professional job is, I work with communities to strategize for and build affordable housing. And often if there's, a parcel of land, town of land, that's a lot of my job. To work with a committee to decide what's, if it's gonna be surplus for affordable housing, what goes on the land. And there's always differing opinions as to what should be on the land, especially if there's ad hoc committees and the neighbors are involved and you want to get the neighbors involved, but it can cause some conflicts throughout.
40B expert.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Not anymore.
And so especially if it's, once you say 40B, people get a negative connotation, even though it's a terrific zoning tool for communities to use if they only, separated the issues. So I work to reach consensus so that we can have a site feasible development, a financially feasible development, and one that everyone can be proud of. So that's a lot of my job is doing that. I also have been working with the Consensus Building Institute to train community members or elected officials on how to build consensus, how to deal with conflict in meetings, especially public meetings. With the ruling that came down from the SJC, there's a lot of confusion. So we've been training the trainers and then training volunteers as well, who often are the committee chairs and whatever, to how to deal with it and also how to start a meeting so that everyone understands the rules and can abide by them.
Okay, just two follow-ups. First of all, what do you think is the biggest impediment to housing? And second of all, can you elaborate on that SJC? Okay.
A little bit, not my expertise.
Yeah,
The biggest impediment in Barnstable, I'm gonna have to say two because I can't. It has been, a little bit of, has been some political will to reach a solution. There's been opportunities, that haven't always been, jumped on, in my opinion. So there's some of that, there's been, as you know, cyclical councils and there's development and anti-development, and it kind of goes around in a circle. Just as you start to get something going, it gets, turned around. So that's part of it. And then, so that kind of is the lack of embracing different diverse housing choices. We can't build single family houses and get out of our housing crisis. We have to be open to downsizing, options for downsizing, and options for people starting out. And I think that's been missing. So that's been, I think, other kind of two impediments that we've had.
You're saying political will is one, and what's this? I think.
The lack of zoning for and incentivizing diverse housing choices. So apartments.
Okay, that's different.
and the SJC rule.
Oh, the SJC. The SJC ruled that in public comment, basically you can say what you want and not get removed from a meeting. And so that a lot of times that has reduced
not so much in Barnstable, but it has reduced the, amount of time that's given to public comment or the time that someone can speak at public comment, because it's instead of having ground rules, some communities have just tried to reduce the amount of, public speaking there is, so that if there is someone who's out of control, they lessen the opportunities for them to speak.
I've actually read about that, but I wanted you to kind of comment it so people can kind of hear it. Great, Councilor Fox.
Thank you very much. And thanks for agreeing to step up to apply for this committee. I know that you, or I believe you still serve on the Affordable Housing, Trust, yeah, Housing Trust.
Yeah, it has a long name, but
Right.
yes.
Right. And how do you feel that has helped us, helped our town?
The trust has been a little, not that it's been inactive, because it is active. There was, kind of some funding. We didn't have funding for a while, very much funding. We now have funding. There has been, I think, without the zoning that encourages the type of housing that the trust would fund, there haven't been as many opportunities to fund and incentivize affordable housing. There's a lot of, not a lot, we've had several infill, or rehab kind of small projects. And then we have the one on Calvert Road that was funded. So it has brought developers in to do some affordable housing, or to do more affordable housing than they would do had it not been for the trust funding. I believe it can do more.
And when you're talking about the Falmouth Road, is that 850?
Yes.
So I recently looked that up to just see how it's doing, and there are vacancies. So if we're saying that we need housing, why isn't it full?
Because their rents are, excuse me, their rents are more than what workers on Cape Cod can afford.
So if the town has subsidized some of the housing,
The town subsidized housing that was
affordable.
very extremely low income. So the town subsidized 50% AMI units, 50% of their immediate income. So those units are full. It's if there's vacancies, and I don't know that for
Yeah,
but I believe you, it's because the rents are high.
Because I looked up the same for Everly, and there's vacancies there. So I said, what are we doing wrong if we're saying there's no housing? And then some of these projects that we supported zoning wise and with some subsidies, I'm saying. So they took our money and now we still have vacancies. So anyways,
We didn't, just, Everly had zoning changes, but they didn't have
okay.
financial support, but they do have affordable housing, and I do believe they're all full.
Okay. So I know that you attend the Affordable Housing Trust meetings. How about the housing meetings that from the Housing Committee? Have you paid attention to what they've been up to or not been up to?
Not as much as I think I was chair of the Housing Committee for over 15 years, so I was very involved. I work in Boston now. It's a little harder for me to stay as connected to the Housing Committee. I try and stay. I was also chair of the zoning board for 5 years, so I kind of keep my, there's only so many hours a day, so.
You've invested in our community is well noted.
Yes.
If you are not selected for this committee, would you stay engaged and be able to participate?
I would like to, assuming that it's meeting, and I am reducing my hours, so I will have more time come the summer. Forever.
Good, thank you.
Councilor Turkelson.
We hear often that affordable housing is not able to be built, that the finances just don't add up. And we see lots of building going on in our town with very little of that actually being affordable, or 10%, maybe 13%. And we know that we need way more than 10 to 13% to make up, to just not even make up the gap to make it 10%, but to have the housing that people are keep commenting over and over and over, coming to us saying, we need housing, we need housing. And we can all agree that this is a true statement and we all feel that. So when people say affordable housing isn't able to be built, in your experience, can you dispel some of that myth for us? That might be a whole workshop, I
It's
recognize.
probably a whole new.
But I guess if you had to give me the elevator speech, we're going to the 50th floor, and so
Right.
I just want to know.
So there's really two answers, divided into two things. Homeownership is more difficult to build affordable, because there's very few subsidies, state subsidies, for homeownership. And the gap between what's affordable and what is the cost to build is so great. So that's difficult. We're fortunate that Barnstable is a gateway city, and so it has some tools that other communities don't have in order to do homeownership. So there, I expect we'll see some coming forward, that will probably be condos, because that's the way that it works best. On the rental side, there's really, the costs are just, through the roof, since the pandemic, for any kind of construction. But as long as there are enough units to qualify for low-income housing tax credits and all the other state subsidies that there are, and that's usually a minimum of 30. There's money to build affordable housing. There's ways to do it at the 25% affordable, 75 market. Those all work. They're being built everywhere, not Barnstable. The smaller projects are a little bit more difficult if you can't get the tax credits, you don't have the 30 or the 28 or whatever. It's more difficult. I'm working now with some folks to put together or reinvigorate a program for small community scale that would be under 20 units, so 6 to 20 units, and trying to promote that in the seasonal communities designated that we're hoping to get
Passed by the state.
by the state. Yeah.
And so if you were to be, how do I say this? A lot of times when I listen to the interviews, it's kind of depressing at the end of the day, because everybody's like, it's such a task, and you don't just hear about it here, it's like nationwide, so it's a very dark and overwhelming concept. So from you, I think I hear what you're saying is there's hope and there's ways. We just maybe need to dust off some of the tools and kind of get down to a place where we all agree that it's time to start using the tools more effectively to get the job done, because we've maybe not been doing such a good job and we could be doing a better job, and there's hope for us.
Yeah, there's lots of proactive ways the town could be moving the needle. Just in the tools we have from gateway cities, with blighted properties, that we could apply for funds to identify, and then to get developers into rehab or raise and replace if it is that blighted. That's a small piece. But just coming in today, I was going down West Main Street and I saw where Papa John's is, and then that blighted, old Humvees and just Westgate and Westgate.
And so,
Every time I go past it, I'm give it,
yeah, and do you think that part of what is limiting us is that how do you say this? Do you think that there's builders and developers outside of our local sources that we would need to tap into or that we would benefit from inviting into our town, like looking beyond I mean, you know, everyone's like shop local, live local, and I'm not against that per se, but I guess I'm just, you know, is there something we're missing outside of our small sphere that has expertise that we have not let into our spaces to help us accomplish this goal? Because I
I
know
think there's some of
you're
that.
all in a lot of places, so.
Right, there's some of that, but there's also, if you set the table and you invite them in, they're gonna be here, so if you invite in, you know, the local, you invite in anybody, because that's, you know, you leave it open, but if you set the table with the tools and, you know, the funding or the availability of funding, I think that you get not just local, you know, you get lots of others, nonprofits to come in and do the work.
And I think we've heard that about, you know, is inviting people in, so I take to heart what you've provided us with today, so thank you.
Council Bloom.
Hi, on 40Bs, you said something that was very interesting to me and promising. You said something that it's not necessarily a bad thing. It is, especially if the community gets to have a say about it.
The community always gets to have a say about 40B. The 40 community, community has a say when the state is first reviewing it. The town can comment, and neighbors anyone can make comments to the subsidizing agency. So they have a say there before they get if they're gonna get the golden ticket to come to the town. And then it goes through a zoning board of appeals process, where there's public comment every time. So the community always has a say. If it's a certain type of 40B, then the town manager, town council has to sign off on it before it gets the golden ticket to go to the zoning board of appeals. And so that's an extra step, and that's when, you know, those they call friendly 40Bs. I don't like the term, because I think they all can be friendly. But that's where, you know, the community can negotiate. But also if, for instance, if the town had some public land that they were putting out to bid to do affordable housing, oftentimes zoning isn't there to do what you want on the land. So if we had a project that was outside of Hyannis, if we had some land, we wanted to put housing on it, right now you couldn't do it in almost any of the other villages, because we don't allow multifamily except in small places. So you'd have to the developer would have to do a 40B. Therefore, the town could determine what was going to be broadly, what was going to be on the property, and what the buffers would be, and how many bedrooms they would have, and all that kind of information. So that's using 40B to your advantage. Otherwise, you have to change the zone. And it, you know, if it was for one parcel of land, it would be spot zoning. You really wouldn't do it.
Sometimes there are rumors about you know, developers who if they don't like it the way I'm presenting it, will do a 40B.
Mhm.
You know, in your experience, are most developers responsive to the community's demands with regard to 40B? And we're working hand in hand.
I think it depends on the community, what the community is pushing back on. And there's legitimate reasons to condition, and they're almost always condition a project. But if it's something like, we're gonna have too many kids in the school, you wouldn't ask a market developer to mitigate the number of kids in the school. But a lot of times community thinks that a developer of 40B should be paying them extra to do that, or to give them a fire truck, or to do this, or to do that, that they wouldn't get from a market developer. The rules are supposed to be the same, and it's in the law that they have to be the same. But, so it depends what the community is looking for. You know, if it's a traffic light, it may be warranted, but again, it has to be warranted by, DOT or whoever it is has to decide if it would be warranted or not. The ZBA couldn't just say, well, because there's 50 units, they'll be in the traffic light.
But last, I think, September or something like that, when I was running, I had lunch with Rick Presbury, and he was singing your praises back then, saying how well the two of you work together. You know how I've said before that I'm concerned about the direction of these committees, you know, and I want everybody to work together to come up with a report. And I'm thinking you're probably somebody who can quite easily do that. I just want to hear it from you, that, you know.
Yeah, as I said earlier, my job requires me to try and get folks to reach consensus. And, you know, I would not be successful in my job if I didn't do it. And it's, you know, how, you know, I usually have a position, but my position always shifts with you know, reality and understanding how we can make it get to yes. And that's the goal, to get to yes. And if it means, you know, giving up part of my position to do that, that's okay, because in the end, we all win, we get to yes.
Thank
Can I ask one last question?
No.
I'm gonna take Chris's question, that's why. You've been on the ZBA, you've been on the housing committee, you're on the affordable trust committee. You obviously have a huge experience that would serve this committee to the nth degree. So I'm wondering why this committee now? What is it about this committee that has really called you to come to us? Because obviously you've been in other places, you've seen how those things work, you know how the industry works, you know how our town works, because you've been in the industry. So what do you think this committee can kind of bring forward if you had your guidance in it, in other people, I'm not just saying your guidance, but what do you think?
Well, I think, one of the things that I can bring to it is a reality check. Because some of the things that, you know, I've heard, through, you know, campaigns and whatever else are, sound like great ideas, but, you know, they're not feasible or legal in some cases. So Massachusetts has some, you know, really strict laws that you have to navigate to get to. So, you know, I understand that. So, and so I think that I can bring that, you know, that reality check, while being positive and having some ideas of how you get tweaked to be feasible. And then why now? Like I said, I'm gonna be cutting back on my job, number one, so I have more time. And I really think that this committee has the ability to move something forward, to be proactive, to not have a defeatist attitude, to say, okay, if that doesn't work, put it aside and get the next one, next idea up and let's go. And I have hope that everyone's looking to solve the problem, not just talk about it. And, you know, we all know what the need is, and there's been a lot of talking.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And a quick question. I appreciate your experience, your investment in our town, and experience as a professional at the state level. I have a little concern in that as we work so hard to make little gains here and there, if, and I may be incorrect on these assumptions, but if we accept state and or federal money, are we opening the door to solve somebody else, another community's problem, so, and not focus on Barnstable's homeless problem or housing problem? Sorry for.
That's okay, it's, so for, any new affordable housing, any affordable housing, the community can request that 70% of the units be local preference. And local preference is, either a current resident of the town, an employee whose business is based in the town, a town employee, or a household where a child goes to school in the town.
It's big.
It's
Yeah.
big. And if the town has to request it, has to back it up with proof of the need that, the Barnstable needs this, these are our demographics, these are our waiting lists and current, not housing environments, it's really low income, but other, affordable housing. So you can show that this is how much, people are cost burdened and lots of demographics. And, the state, you ask the state. The state usually grants it based on, the need, and I think we could, we would get that. Now, that only applies to the first, lease up or sale. After that, they take everyone who's applied for the housing and goes into a wait list. But what ends up happening typically is that 70% meet that local preference, and the other 30% have some connection to the town. So it could be that they grew up here. They wouldn't be considered a local resident because they moved away, even if they moved to Yarmouth. So, but not always, because not only do we want to house who we have here, we also want to be welcoming so that we have a vital, vibrant community that has young people and old people. And young people can't move here right now. My kids are not here, that. So, it's, so we do have to save space to be welcoming to other people, even if they're from Yarmouth.
I just know how we're working hard to try to find some creative options to address the concerns that we hear at every council meeting. And it gives me pause to think that, if we make some inroads, are we serving that demographic that we're hearing from? So at least there's a mechanism that addresses it. Thank you.
And Laura, do most towns apply for that 70%?
Yes,
It's pretty standard that they do that.
it's pretty standard. There's some developers who may not, without the town asking them to, because it's a little extra work and the lottery, is 2 pools instead of 1, so, not that much, but it is more work. But usually if the town requests, they always say yes, that's one that isn't a battle ever.
Yeah.
Now, some towns, if you don't supply sufficient, backup, then they may say, well, you're not gonna get 70, you're gonna get 50. But that's rare,
Great, thank you.
especially in people.
That was a hell of an interview.
I know, right?
Thank you so much. I know, no, not at all, but what's interesting is that to everybody we've interviewed, there's one thing that's consistent with everybody. My kids can't afford to be here. My kids aren't here. My kids are in the same category. And that's the only consistent thing from everybody we've interviewed, is my kids can't afford to be here. My kids aren't here. And it's a shame.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
I'm not with her.
Oh, I still know your name.
Oh, Deborah Converse.
Come on down. Oh, I was thinking Amanda Carver. Her mom. Oh, okay.
Oh, Amanda.
Putting two and two together.
Yeah.
And Kristen,
Hi.
nice to meet you.
Jeff, very nice to meet
Nice to
you.
meet you. I know you.
Charlie, nice to meet you.
Hi. Yes, I'm now my daughter's mother.
That's a good thing.
That's good.
Every daughter is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of interesting. I have to start out, I have known Laura since she was having babies, and I've worked with her since then, but I am not a technical person. She was always my technical person. So I'm kind of the heart, oh, I know, I did too. I thought you'd be interviewing long into the day and the day, so I brought you a healthy snack.
Thank you. That's a we've never said it. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Little raisins.
As long as it's not over $50.
Thank you very
One
much. That's
box,
very
a
cool.
penny.
That was very
My
thoughtful.
mom would be thankful because she doesn't like me to shut up.
Yeah, I know, I noticed that.
Fries and raisins. Pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Diane.
So welcome, Mrs. Converse. Thanks for coming in.
Mhm.
And I'm sure you've heard my question about
I wasn't listening at all.
compromise.
Yeah. I've been in housing since Governor Dukakis created the 40B and the whole housing, affordable housing plan back in his administration. And the beat goes on. The conversation hasn't changed from the people opposing. They said last night at that meeting in Marston Mills, the same things were said that have been said for the 40 years I've been involved in housing. And it's hard to get there. And I just think, I've always thought, full-fledged marketing campaign would maybe help. I don't know what would help, but certainly I'm open to hear what people have to say and respecting their concerns, because I might have the same concerns.
And in your opinion, what is the biggest impediment to housing?
I think it's been, Barnstable started out gangbusters with 40B and with doing housing. We were the leader for a long time. And I worked at Housing Assistance Corporation with the famous Rick Presbury for as long as my career lasted there, which was a long time. And so I'm sorry, I did that aside because it got me confused.
The impediment to housing.
Yeah, the impediment is, it's the will of the people, understanding who is going to live there and not being afraid of who's going to live there and afraid that their property values will depreciate. The other thing is this town, as I said, starting off gangbusters has the process seems to have slowed up. There's a lot of process going on. I watch the trust meetings because I'm on the CPC and we fund the trust, so I watch them. And it's so much process that I get a little lost and it takes more time. I mean, one developer came in and it took 3 meetings and several months just to get to, okay, we'll approve this. And so, we've got to work with people, more developers or people building or rehabbing more directly to help them through the process. Because it's as listening to Laura, I thought, well, I know what she's saying, but it's still complicated for a developer, especially who doesn't do this on a regular basis. And that's why people don't come forward.
Also thought.
People don't come forward, you meaning developers? We have had some creative developers come before us, I think before the end of the year with is it the TIE programs to support some where I thought were noble rehabs of the existing property, primarily in downtown Hyannis. With Councilor Shaughnessy, who mentioned it was in the least affordable part of our town. So for that, I was glad it was a twofer. Again, I look and I embrace the notion of taking blighted or rundown properties to make an investment, as opposed to eyeballing virgin virgin land, undeveloped land. Because I think just because you might be pro-open space does not mean you're anti-housing. So, and open space serves, all demographics in not only recreation, but also future water supply and stuff like that. So, I know that you are the, housing representative on CPC. One candidate yesterday was suggesting that some of the CPC money go towards, towards housing, and I said it already does. So I just wanted, you're there to witness that. I appreciate that. And did you notice the breakdown of the housing committee, or how it kind of lost its groove?
Yeah, I did. There were a lot of them. And our director of the Barnstable Housing Authority would go with that committee, and she reported in on just as I reported in on the trust. And I think there was just not enough direction.
Yeah, but I also understand from Cindy Lovell, who explained once they lost the housing director,
Yes,
who
yes,
was
oh, yes.
an administrative support that kind of
Mhm.
lost its
It did.
traction. If you are not selected for this committee, would you be inclined to still attend the meetings and participate and help shape the discussion?
I would be, I'm involved in a couple of things in town, so I probably, and I hold my retirement dear. But I also want something to happen. And, you know, I may know the people on the committee, so, you know, we can have off-site discussions or
Collaboration.
something. So I probably would.
Because this is a big opportunity. We only have 4 slots to fill.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of talent that could contribute from the outside, and that it's undervalued, and I think we want to celebrate that community participation. So, and you have a lot to offer.
Maybe. I have a lot of heart, and I have a lot of need for equity. That is my thing. I don't know why I keep on with affordable housing, because it's one of the most frustrating things I've ever been involved in, but it's just, I mean, I have kids too, and the only reason my son will be able to stay in town is because he lives with us right now, and he will, and then I have a daughter who, you know, lives in Marston Mills right now, and who knows what her future, I mean, she is married and they have a house, but it's a family trust, so who knows what the future holds. And that's, you know, I want my kids work in the community. And, so I want them to be, and I'm kind of selfish, I'd like them all.
Well, we want our children. But I'm also concerned, I probably should have brought this up earlier with other candidates, that there are other groups, and it seems like there's a lot of programs accomplishing similar but different things. Housing assistance seems like a big company, and it's different from homeless, not hopeless, which is mostly volunteer driven. And I do think that other the needing fund, the Lombard Trust, there's a lot of programs. I think of them as I drive away home. That how can we streamline or maximize the good work being done by all these groups to be more effectual?
I think this committee, the goal of this committee is pretty defined. I think the job of the committee is to figure out creative ways to get housing done in town. That's one thing. Not that simple, but it is one, and there's a deadline, and I'm all for that kind of thing, because I think if you talk and talk and talk forever, you can talk and talk and talk forever. I want to see something get done. And we have some properties around town. We have also some rehabs around town. We also, the housing authority has been talking about possibilities of using some of its land, because some of the land, it's big enough to have an accessory dwelling unit. Maybe using something like that, because it's our land. And, doing creative and getting something done and started. And it's not as easy to get shovels in the ground because you need, which is Laura's technical assistance, the money. But you can't let, I flinch when I think about the money standing in the way, because we have to do it one way or the other. So I'm not a realist in something, but things work out. So.
Councilor Jefferson.
So in your role, you said, I'm watching the Affordable Housing Growth and Development Trust Fund meetings to monitor progress for spending the monies allotted for housing in the CPC. So that 307 Main is coming up this week to ask for $2 million to fund that project. So the Affordable Housing Trust has $4 million. How are you feeling about how the CPC monies that you've been working towards and are being spent by the Affordable Housing Trust? Potentially, there's no guarantees. I'm just.
Yeah, it's slow going. And I added up the units from the last report, and it was not enough for the amount of professional, smart people that are involved in getting this done. And that's why I like having, by this date, we need to finish this, to do that. I think they're doing the best they can in the process.
And you would feel comfortable spending 50% of the Affordable Housing Trust monies on one project?
Not really, but it depends on how much it benefits the town. I mean, if 850 to me, down the road, there aren't enough units there. And as you see, the rents are too high to be rented out. Some of them, I've been wondering about that because I've been with Everly and then the new one over in back of Hanover Place. And 850, I'm wondering how many units aren't
vacant.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I was looking.
And I've seen nothing, which makes me crazy, because I should do it myself, but, I want to know at $3,000 a month or $3,500 a month. I mean, 850 is some amenities, but there are no amenities. So who's renting? Are they summer people just coming down, or I have a lot of.
I don't know, it's expensive. I certainly couldn't afford that.
Oh, well, neither could I, and,
Yeah.
I couldn't live here.
Yeah.
So where could I move? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Councilor Bloom.
I wish we had 8 slots for people like you, who obviously know their stuff, to help out with this problem that we have. What I don't get though, it's because I'm a novice with this stuff, is, how a place like 307, where each unit costs over $600,000, how anybody who's in the workforce can possibly rent something like that. How much will this $2 million help these people out?
But there's state money. We've got local money, state money, and there's some federal money, but there's a lot of state money being available. And I think we need to take advantage of it. And the home ownership thing, I mean, I really have a place in my heart for people who want to get started, and I want to say, give Habitat some land and have them go build on it. And a long time ago at HAT, I ran a self-help housing program, which is the same premise as Habitat. It was equity, sweat equity, we called it. And people had to be income eligible, and they did some work on the house like Habitat. And they learned what the ins and outs of their house. And it was a training thing with them. You had to have developers who were willing to train with them, but it's being done. We just gotta think not normal, I guess is what it is, because I've been thinking normal for a long time and it's not happening fast. I've been trying to think outside. I mean, that's why with the housing authority, that's why I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Well, what can we do? What can we make housing? And that's when we came up with maybe accessory dwelling units. I mean, I think I think the most help because I'm committed to it. I believe in it, And I love when other people rise to the occasion. Because if people have an open door and start thinking differently, it's amazing what they come up with. I mean, that's the beauty of, I use some silly examples, well, not silly, but when I started the fundraising department at Housing Assistance, I just thought, well, who do I know? And so I started going to the business community because I had, I don't know how I had the contacts, I think through BAG. And I said, okay, what can we do? How can we educate people? What can we do? Because I figured these are people that, have to figure this stuff out all the time with their products. And they, not only do we get PAC better known, but we started to raise money. And then from there, we went to pockets of wealth. And I had the right people, thank goodness, that helped show, more than show the need, but show the heart and soul of the need. And so I think that's somehow, I mean, I picture knocking on doors and talking to people. I mean, it's gonna have to be that labor intensive, because people don't get it.
I actually agree with you, because I'm at that age where aging parents.
Yeah.
My family's been here both sides for several generations.
Mm,
Where I've seen what it was, what the kid
Yeah.
was when I was younger,
mhm,
but I'm still young enough where I'm in the workforce.
mhm, mhm.
And people, they know there's a housing crisis, but they don't understand it because they're not affected by it yet.
Mhm, mhm.
And I see it because I'm a contractor.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, when I go on job sites, I'm one of maybe, and I'm talking 20 to 30 people on job site,
Mhm.
maybe 4. That live on a cape.
Yeah.
And when people don't see that.
Yeah.
They don't realize
Mhm.
how dire the
Mhm.
crisis really is.
Mhm.
And, like I said, and I've said it often, I would love to go back to 1975, when I'm riding my motorcycle
Yeah.
down the power line from Martha's Mills to my cousin's house in Howard.
Mhm.
Love to do that.
Yeah.
Riding my bicycle from Martha's Mills to my grandmother's house in Falmouth on 28.
Mhm.
Love to do that. But those days are long over and they're never coming
I
back.
know.
And it's the urgency of now.
Yeah, now it is, yeah.
And now I bring up the aging parents because where my mom, father passed, and my mom requires some help right now. My sister, thank goodness, is there. But everybody who comes in privately comes from Arcade.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah, and people. I mean, you have to paint the picture for people, and I think we have never painted it well enough for people to understand.
Yeah.
And, I just know from the seat of my pants how I would like to explain it.
Mhm.
I mean, my son is a painter who, thank heaven he lives in our house because he does all the work, taking care of his aging parents. And so, I see he works for Kendall Welch a lot, and
Right.
yeah, oh, I'll have to ask him. I think, could they maybe give a house or something, give a little time to help build a house or help somebody build a house and maybe, but lumber costs are really, all costs, infrastructure costs are high.
Mhm.
So it's hard. That's the other disadvantage of trying to build affordable housing. So it is a community solution, but it has to be driven. And I picture this committee kind of driving the notion. I'm really not saying anything measurable because Laura came first. But, and she does know her, we've been working on this stuff for a long time. And, we've got to convince people.
I was kind of surprised going to the Marston's Mills meeting last night. That really kind of got me.
Mhm.
I was caught off guard by that.
No, I wasn't. I
was
I'm always surprised when people are that adamant against affordable housing. I think they don't understand it. I think a lot of things.
Or just housing, because affordable wasn't even,
No, because they assumed it was low income.
Yeah.
And we do need low income housing, but that's not what that's gonna be. But yeah, I wasn't. People have been saying, there was a woman that lived, with CPC money for, what was it, Habitat. And this woman had finally, in Marston's Mills, had finally just eked out enough to buy her own house. And she was worried about these people going across her property, because she owned her house. And I'm sitting there, like, I'm sitting there trying to, bite my tongue and be nice. And I just said, well, these people are gonna own their houses too, and I imagine they care about their property as much as we do. And, I don't know where that came from, because what I was thinking was not as nice as that, but it was true. And so people have to be less fearful, I think, or less oblivious. I mean, when you live in a bubble, and Oyster Harbors is the bubble that I think of all the time. If you live in a bubble, you don't know. Your needs are met, you can pay for it, and everything's peachy. And that's why you did a lot of fundraising there, and raised a lot of money, because some people got it. So I don't know, it's really, thank heavens I can be here with my kids. I can't imagine my kids being, one of our members on the housing authority, her daughter's in California, just had a baby. She's low, the daughter, or the mother is on the housing authority, is low income, she's in one of our units. And, how does she get to see her grandchildren?
My daughter's a nurses. One's traveling, one's working up in the Worcester area.
Oh,
And they can afford to have a place down there, they just can't find one. And
yeah,
it's interesting, because I said this in an open council a month ago.
yeah,
Like you said, it's the same arguments we've been hearing for 40 years.
mhm,
But the difference is that it's people that's been down here for 10 years.
yeah.
They come here and they think they're gonna close the bridges. That's just what the facts are.
Yeah, I don't know, I hate to think it's that simple. I think they just figured, we did it, people can do it.
Yeah, it's different days. I bought my first house for $70,000.
We bought ours furnished.
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah, so, those days are over, but people know things from life experience.
Mhm.
That's how people learn.
Mhm,
And that's why I don't get upset with people per se when they say things like that,
mhm.
because that's their life experience. But when you're out there in the streets and you're really seeing it in real time and seeing how it's really affecting the Cape, it's very troubling. It's very troubling, because like I said, one thing that's consistent that I've noticed since we've been having these meetings is I have kids, they're not here. I have kids, they can't afford to be here.
Mhm.
It's a shame. These kids grew up here.
I know, and my son still needs a passport to get over the bridge.
So,
I have a question, if you don't mind.
no, we have time.
With your experience with HAC, and I intend to follow up to get a little more information, about how many employees do they have? Housing Assistance Corporation.
It may have changed by now, but, what did he say? Better.
You were too far away from it.
Yeah.
I'm quoting.
100 maybe?
100
Maybe-
employees?
Maybe more now. I mean, we had, when you think the shelters, which is, I don't know, maybe they're still running shelters, or they will be, but.
It's a lot of employees.
Yeah.
I'm concerned that there's financial resources that are part of the organization that could serve the constituency.
Yeah, I know we used to write ourselves, not just about some house from. That was how we were brought up with that.
Have a seat, please.
Yeah, I don't think it's really financial resources, it's inventory.
Wow.
Obviously, people need help, but for affordable, we need the inventory for affordable, because like I said, I'm a contractor, I know what these houses cost to build. Prices have gone up at least 30% since COVID, at least.
Crazy, yeah,
So, that these people have to be able to make money.
yeah.
you know,
Well, last night, we said, and it's actually more than $80,000 a year. It takes $86,000 a year to afford, to rent on Cape Cod, $86,000 a year. And Lindsay Council and I looked at each other and said, I never made $80,000 a year. He said, I never made $80,000 a year. I mean, I know prices have gone up, but my kids don't make $80,000 a year, and they work, my son works 2 jobs. My daughter does local, but, you know, it's fundraising, it's everything that goes into it. And so, I don't know, we've got to do something for our kids.
I agree.
And one of the participants there last night said something about, she called it the cottage colony. And I thought, you know, that's kind of a nicer way of saying it. You know, you picture it differently if you call it a cottage community than if you call it affordable housing.
That's true.
And the other thing that happened to me,
Marketing.
even over the last year and a half, is I realized that not all children are going to be raised in a single family house. And you referred to it when Laura was here, you know, it's going to probably have to be apartments, and you can't afford condominiums because of the price, you know, the fees that go up. So we're going to have to figure out how to change our view of how we raise our children and what we do with them, because it's not going to be the single family house that my parents built and that I grew up in farm country.
No
So,
more farms left.
yeah,
Well, Alton Chris is recently, that's not much.
yeah, yeah.
The water's precious.
Yes.
So,
Anything else?
No.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the enlightening conversation.
well, and what
Thank you for the raise.
Yeah, and the raise.
Yeah,
I'm very
Well,
thankful for the boxes.
well, I could be kind of-
Just bearing some of my belly.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you're being a kid.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I just thought it'd be a funny way to start out.
Good update too.
Oh, the other thing I was going to say, my husband is the one that encouraged me to go fly, because I thought, oh, I've been on it so long that, you know, we need these young people. Because maybe there'll be different thoughts, different ways of solving things. So I know you don't have many spots, but young is good because the young is good.
It's gonna affect them, that's why.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank
for
you
that.
so much.
And
Thank
thank
you.
you all this previous service.
Deb Howard, I'm earlier than.
That's fine, Deb, come on up.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Chris. Chris, nice to meet you.
Charlie. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Trying to find your resume.
Would you like a raise?
Oh, no, thank you, that's so cute.
Ah.
Oh, I didn't have a resume, I just put in the.
No, we're just looking for you.
Yeah.
Oh, the application.
You and the staff.
Oh.
Here it
Well,
is.
there's-
Here it is.
It's the right space.
A lot of people interested.
Yeah, that there is. Well, thank you for coming in, Debbie, appreciate it. I always start off with basically the same question about confidence. I don't know how much you've been paying attention to politics.
I don't pay much attention to town politics, to be honest.
Well, we have quite a few divisive issues going on in town right now, from housing, affordable housing, wind power, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
And so what's happened are people are starting, well, not starting, some people are in their corners. So to me, compromise is very important. Being able to compromise is important. Because we're not good, nobody's gonna get everything they want, especially out of these communities. You're gonna have to be able to compromise and, you know, kind of not give up morals or anything like that, but maybe give up a little something to get something back. To do what's best for the town. So in your professional life, can you give us a time when you've had to compromise? An example?
Oh, I would say, actually, the job that I do is all about compromise because, you know, I work with the public and, you know, as an artist, I'm used to being far more comfortable, I should say, behind the scenes, painting and getting ready for shows.
But when I moved down here, I also had to supplement that, and so I work part-time at the gallery and, you know, help provide the clients that come in with information, art, you know, processing their work. And I think that was, for me, a big compromise because, like I said, I'd much prefer to be behind the scenes in my profession. But, you know, you do what you need to do to make things work.
Sure.
So
And I see you're a renter.
I am.
You are a renter. Okay, so in your opinion, what's the biggest impediment for housing?
In my opinion, I would say it would be the short-term rental versus long-term rent. You know, I've really seen that change since when I grew up here versus, you know, probably the past 5 years with the Airbnb. And I feel like there's houses, but either no one's in them or they're short-term turnarounds.
Mhm.
So I think that sucked a lot of stuff off the rental market. I just really lucked out myself.
What time do you grow up in?
Sandwich.
Oh, Sandwich, okay.
Yeah. And I rented in Boston. I also owned a place in Boston. And then I moved back here. And
Welcome back.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been about 10 years.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, not
you
so welcome back. You've been here.
but I'm happy to be back, you know, but it wasn't easy actually finding something to rent 10 years ago, let alone now. If I didn't have the situation I have, I wouldn't be able to be back. So I really think, and that's why I applied to both committees, because I think it's not just about creating more homes and development. To me, it's more about policy, because something needs to, I mean, if you want things to change, it needs to shift. That's what I believe.
Council Clark?
Thank you. And that's great that you're a renter, you have that perspective, the native Cape Carter, appreciate that. So what motivated you to step up and put your hat in the ring for this at this time?
Well, I think it's something that, you know, what I always loved about the Cape, you know, growing up here and even, you know, coming back, is it always had different types of people here. And it was like a, you know, it wasn't Nantucket. It wasn't like the Vineyard, you know, it wasn't exclusive in that way. There were areas, but it, you know, it was all kinds of people. You could go, you know, to a different place, you'd have a fisherman, or you'd have all types of people. And I've noticed probably, I really think the last 5 years, probably since COVID, that it's just gotten much more exclusive. And yeah, it's totally gentrified. And I lived in the South End in Boston. And I saw that change and it got totally gentrified as well. And, you know, the artists are gone and, you know, people didn't even know there were art studios, people who'd moved in. I mean, there were warehouses of them, but people who came, they weren't interested, you know. So I see the same thing happening here. And I feel like I had to just try because it's a kind of a loss of a way of living versus just about renting.
Yeah, that's good justification. So have you ever watched or paid attention to what the housing committee or zoning board of appeals?
No,
You said you hadn't been
no,
that dive in before.
yeah, no, not, you know, you know, the topics I, you know, learn about, but it's the specifics of how it works, you know, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, it takes a time commitment and when
Mhm.
you're working, I understand it's there's only so much that you can carve out for volunteer or public service, but there are a good many volunteers in our town that contribute to these, what we have 43 committees,
That's a lot.
commissions and boards. It is a lot in this town. Some more active than others. If you were not selected for this committee, do you think you could find the drive and the time to stay engaged with what the committee is doing and participate? We have 4 slots and many applicants,
Yeah.
but I come from the frame of mind that public comment and public engagement, even if you're not a sitting committee member, is undervalued because I think when people come to a meeting at which they don't have to be, that If I was, yeah, it says something that you're driven with, interest and passion and commitment to contribute nonetheless.
Right.
I think it has actually more input. If I was a committee member and somebody didn't have to be here and they have something to say, my ears would perk up and say, okay, you don't have to be here and you care enough to chime in.
Right. No, that's a good point, you know, and I was gonna ask because I didn't know how many slots you had. Yeah, I mean, I do think it's an important issue, so it's something I would definitely stay involved in, you know, I just, you know, I hope that it's something that can be worked out.
It's a big nut, and there are many groups trying to address it in different ways. So, we just need, like, a full court press, and with the weight of 5 counselors on that committee, I think the expectation of council leadership is that this is serious enough to put some muscle behind it.
Yeah, I agree. So, well, thanks for that.
Councilor Turkleton.
I'm curious how you heard about the 2 committees.
Well, I was talking to my neighbors and they said, because we talk about these issues, you know, a lot of my friends have kids that can't afford to stay here. Or, you know, can't move back, or, you know, it's really, I mean, like I said, I left out, but a lot of, it's not everybody's so lucky. So we were talking about it and they said that there was something about it in the Cape Cod Times and sent me the article. And that's how I found out about it.
Great, thanks.
Thanks, Cindy.
Councilor Brown.
What really stuck out for me was what you said, as a renter, artist, and native Cape Codder, I believe I can provide a helpful perspective on what we have already lost and hopefully what we can gain through proper zoning policy. I know you talked a little bit about maybe what we have lost, maybe not specifically in the sense that this is what we have lost, but
Right.
what are some of the things that you've seen that we've lost and that you'd like to work on?
Well, like, I was just touching upon, just now. Keeping, you know, the younger generations, letting them be able to stay here, you know. There's the opportunity for, you know, first time home buying that's gone, you know, essentially. I think that is pretty much gone. You know, little starter homes are now going for like $600,000 to $800,000. It's out of touch, you know, for a lot of people. So that's something that I do think we've lost.
How about as an artist?
Oh, well, as an artist, I mean, that, you know, the Cape has always been known for a place for artists were able to work and be inspired by, and, you know, even down Cape where, you know, now that's, I don't know any, really that many artists that live here anymore, because it's just, you know, to make a living, it's just almost impossible. So, you know, it's a struggle, but like I said, I don't know. I know maybe one other working art. You know, it's a gallery, I know, but a lot of them, they're not from here. You know, so it's just not a thing. A lot of them have gone to New Bedford. I mean, they've left the South End, Boston too, you know, it's just, so you're just not getting that cultural richness that was once here.
So the south end of Boston, all the artists have basically moved out.
Well, I wouldn't say they've all moved out, but,
It's not the vibrant
no,
center that it used to
no,
be.
it's, you know, you know, design. But, you know, design company, those have taken a lot of the studios, and it's just, it's not up enough. So, yeah, it's not at all what it was. But now I see that here.
So it's gentrified and expensive
Oh, yeah,
rent.
yeah. Even though they do try to provide some, you know, affordable, well, I guess it's all relative, but, studio spaces, but that's, you know, now you're competing with the design firms and it's just really, all my friends have left there. So I do see that happening.
It's funny, I was just in San Diego this past weekend. And a lot of artists are left there in the city also.
Yeah,
Where Petco, are you familiar with San Diego? Rail?
no,
They have the ballpark of Petco. And where Petco is,
right near there was a bunch of artists, and they just can't afford it.
Yeah.
They're all gone, but there's one left.
Yeah, and, Raymond, he really did do a lot to, try and keep artists in the South End, there were lotteries, they have, and even in Fort Point Channel, but I just see the similar thing happening here, so I don't know, I'm not sure what the answers are, but it has to do with policy, I believe.
Agreed.
Where can we find your art?
Oh, Left Bank Gallery in Wellesley, and, I'm showing up in the North Shore at Gallery.
Nice.
The town does celebrate artwork. You can see here that this is a feature that the town of Barnstable has been doing. They have, rotating, artists.
Oh, that's
This is a particularly wet one.
Oh, they're nice.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
all.
Same
Thank
here.
you very much.
Nice to see you.
I appreciate your interest and I hope you stay engaged.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, next time. Yeah, Catherine Ledet.
Oh, I've been looking for you all day.
I can assure you I was driving somewhere.
Take care.
Thank you.
I just had a class.
Well, thanks, thank you for having me. Yes,
I'm Jeff.
thank you for having me. Thank
Very
you.
welcome.
Thank you for having me here today.
Sure.
Didn't mean tonight, I'm not shaking, no, we just, I know you from, see you, meet of course, felt natural, like I.
That's okay, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, thank you for coming in.
Sure.
We should be thanking you. So have you watched any of these or
Yes,
you have?
yes, I admit that I've been watching them. I'm curious. Curious to see who is interested and I know it's not just me. I hope it's not just me.
Oh,
There's been a lot of interest. Oh,
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that's really great.
A
The more
lot.
the better.
yeah. So have you heard my question about compromise?
Yes, I've heard your question about compromise. You want to start there?
Yes.
So, as you know from reading the materials that I sent you, I just want to make sure I'm close to the microphone, so anybody who's watching on Zoom can hear what I have to say, I've heard your question about compromise. I think it's really important. Right now, a lot of people seem to be not willing to do that. And I think it's really important that we all step up to the plate and think about what's important to us and how can we, come together and walk away with a Barnstable that's better than it was before. In my opinion, diversity of opinion, diversity of idea, diversity of people, it's what makes our town and country stronger. I think it's sad sometimes when you see people who are not willing to compromise, but I think we need to talk about it. I have a great example to share with you about compromise that I experienced about 10 years ago when I was, of course, as you know, I was in Fairfax County, Virginia until just a couple of years ago when we moved up here. In case you're interested, to help take care of my aging parents. So as president of the Friends of Huntley Meadows Park, which is a 1,500 acre natural area park in Fairfax County, a conservation area, we were presented with a really interesting challenge, and it is that there was an existing transmission line, a power line easement running along the southern boundary of the park. But not in the park. It was on park property, right on the edge of the park property. And the challenge that we had was there were wooden power poles that over a period of 50 years kind of started to, like fall down. And Fort Belvoir is sort of the primary user of this power generation. And they wanted to upgrade the power poles. I mean, it kind of made sense. They were falling apart. So ideally, from our perspective, the Friends of Huntley Meadows Park, our task is to protect the natural resources in that land. Ideally, for us, that power line would never be there. It should never have been put there, but it was put there 50 years ago when people didn't think about the impacts of what they were doing on natural resources in their environment. So we really had to think about
how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna do this in a way that continues to provide the power that Fort Belvoir needs, the largest employer in Fairfax County, and protect the natural resources and the environment that are there, 1,500 acres that we're totally committed to protecting. So we knew that we would never be able to get them to remove this transmission line. It's just not gonna happen. If we kept fighting for that, we were gonna lose. We weren't gonna get anything out of the deal, and then we would have to walk away with just a mess that we would have to clean up. So we tried really hard. We worked very hard to find a compromise position. So we opted not to fight that because we knew it would never go away. And we came up with 5 things that we would want from the power company to improve that power line so it would reduce its environmental impact on the park. And I have to say, lo and behold, we won that battle because we came forward with a reasonable compromise that was supported by sound scientific research and activities with power transmission lines around the world. So we feel really good about the fact that we walked away with a win. And what did we get? We got them to reduce the height of those monopoles. You know those monopoles that they put up everywhere? 125 feet high. That was 40 feet higher than the highest tree in Hunting Meadows Park. So we got them to lower the poles to 100 feet. That's really important because in a conservation area with a wetland, the birds are flying above the tree line. They're going to crash into those power lines, and then you're going to have a big problem with bird collisions. So we got them to lower the poles, reducing the potential for that kind of an impact. More importantly, what that also did was it protected the historic view shed from viewing these power poles above the tree line, sort of distracting from the gorgeous view of the tree area that Hunting Meadows Park was. So now you don't see them. How fabulous is that? Because now, for the next 100 or so years, everybody who goes up the hill to have a look down at the park is not going to have to look at these really ugly power lines. So that's my story of compromise.
Well, you said there were 5 things you asked.
Well, we did. We asked for more. You want to know the others? They're actually
No,
really,
it's okay.
they're pretty good, actually.
We can move on.
They're really pretty good,
No.
but we can talk about it later.
Yeah, you gave great
You
examples.
betcha. But anyway, it was really important to identify where we could actually make a difference. And standing at one end of the argument wasn't going to get us anywhere. And actually, we would lose more if we didn't really take action to figure out where we could accomplish something together. It was a challenge. I have to admit, I didn't really know what I got into when we started to challenge this project. We had to get involved with the, utility regulators and all this stuff. And I learned so much. But we walked away with a really big win. And I think that tells an important story about compromise.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if you stand on one side of the argument, you're gonna walk away with not a whole lot. And that's a story in itself, really. And I hope that others who heard about it, continue to learn from it.
So let me ask you, if you want to get into the zoning,
Mhm.
what do you see as the biggest impediment to zoning?
So it's a very interesting question. I've been attending a number of the committee meetings and watched some of the back and forth between people who are proposing projects, developers or property owners and the committees. And I see a lot of back and forth and back and forth. It's kind of frustrating to me, back and forth, And now that these subcommittees will be established, I have a better understanding of why there's that much back and forth. The zoning ordinance is a really powerful tool to influence land use change on the ground, right? But it's also a really powerful tool to communicate to developers and property owners what your vision and priorities are. If the zoning ordinance doesn't describe certain things with really crisp language, or there are gaps, somebody reading that to try and comply with zoning ordinances is going to say, but that's not a priority because they didn't really talk about that, so I'm going to move on to something else. So I'm a little bit concerned that there are perhaps sections of the ordinance that could be improved, the language a little bit more crisp.
Some more clarity?
Yeah, I think clarity is important. I also think it's really important to translate what your vision is for development into the zoning ordinance. Here we have a number of new members of the council. We have some members of the council who've been there for a while. What is your vision? And when developers come to the table to talk to you about their projects, if there's a lot of back and forth, it makes me wonder if maybe that's not clear. And they don't really know what that is. So when I was in Fairfax County, I share with you some more sort of lessons learned from my activities down there, which I really want to bring to the table here in Barnstable so that we can kind of use them to inform what we do so things can be better. I think about actions that similarly elected officials down there take to communicate their vision. They do it by resolution, they do it in writing. There's always a lot of conversation about it, so they come together with a unified vision. But they do it by resolution in writing. A lot of times what people have said to me in the past is it's great to have a conversation about it, but until it's in writing, you really mean business. And I think putting things in writing might be useful for a developer to better understand what it is you're really looking for. And what are your priorities? Are your priorities just putting the building up for the sake of putting the building up? Are they to put the building up and protect the natural resources on that site? Are they to protect the future residents from the impacts of climate change? I think it's all of that. But what does that really mean from a developer's perspective? Put their hat on. What does that really mean for them? It means that they have to manage the stormwater really well. Are the trees that they're going to plant, are they going to be healthy? Will they survive long term? Are they planning for future solar on the roof? All sorts of things like that. You know, I think it's about putting your vision on paper so that people can really understand what that means. I hope that makes some sense to you.
Yeah, direction.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that because what I've witnessed personally, as I've been on council, is that a lot of times councilors in particular will ask questions because they don't know.
Mhm.
But the proponents of the project will take it as a hostile act when it's not that. They're just trying to figure it out. Because, you know, we're all from different walks of life here, and we all have different expertise. So, you know, if I need my arm set, I'm gonna call her. If I want some clams, I'm gonna call her. You know, Charlie, who knows?
They keep us mentally.
Yeah.
Last box go by Jeff. He doesn't take care of
Yeah,
us.
Yeah, that's it. So I think that it's actually a great point that you make. Because I think there's a big disconnect between us trying to learn on the job, them being experts, and then taking what we ask them as a hostile act when it's just information gathering.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. One of the other really important lessons that I learned in Fairfax County was the importance of early stakeholder engagement. So down there, I mean, it's a more heavily developed, more urbanized area than it is up here. It's comparable, but it's like, you know, in each precinct, for example, there's 140,000 people living in each precinct. So that's the difference in the population down there. 140,000 people in each precinct.
How many
And how
precincts?
many precincts?
10.
Okay, so
It's
1.4.
almost 1.4 million people. It's a really big area. So their zoning ordinance is very, I don't want to call it restrictive because that's not the right word. It's very descriptive. So that means that when a developer comes in, it's very clear what is expected of them. But more importantly, the early stakeholder engagement process is really important. So I would get involved in these projects at the concept stage before any drawings have been done, before any of those expensive engineered designs are being done. 2 to 3 years before that, the developer would come in and start meeting with interested stakeholder groups and listen to what our interests were, what did we want to see, and then they would come back and meet with us before they would even meet with the elected officials. So that by the time it got into the formal part of the process, It was really a whiz to get it passed because everybody was in support of it. So that public input process is so important, because what you don't want to have is a project come to you for final approval and then you have like 25 speakers all in opposition. That's just messy. You really don't want that. What you really want is a project that everybody supports and everybody has bought into, and all the compromises have been made before you get to the final decision. Otherwise, it's more of this back and forth and back and forth. Time is money, right? It's back and forth. And then the developers don't want to come here because it gets expensive for them, you know?
Council Clark.
Thank you. So,
Yeah.
what made you, step up to apply for this, this opening for or this opportunity to serve for this particular committee?
It just seemed really interesting to me. So I've been involved in zoning down in Fairfax County for, gosh, my first committee appointment was like in 2006, so it's been, quite a while. I know the value of public input to the process, but I also know the value of informed public input. I think it's really, really important that all of those involved in the process understand what informed public input is, and don't just sort of come hollering to the microphone saying, I don't really like that. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we don't really want that. We want people to have their arguments all set up and supported by data and scientific research. We want to make good decisions based on the information that's presented to us. That's what I have a lot of experience doing in Fairfax County. I live here now. I want to be part of that. I think that the ideas that I bring to the table and the experience from where I was before can really help us make this place great. I can't wait to get involved. You've seen me at those town council meetings and at some of those committees. I'm fidgeting in my seat because I'm thinking, oh my God, I have to say something. But then it just gets to be too overwhelming because I can't really change, where the decisions have already been made for the last few months. But it's like, I can't wait to get involved. I have to admit that.
Nice. And when I've seen you at the LCPC meetings too, so I appreciate that. So when you said you've watched the meetings, have you watched the zoning board of appeals meetings?
Sure.
Is that what you're saying about the back and forth?
Yeah, and I've also seen them with respect to historic resources as well.
Mhm.
Kind of back and forth and back and forth. And I think the same challenge exists there. More specificity, I think, is needed so that developers know what it is they're supposed to do.
Well, sometimes I have to admit that I think some of it is subject to interpretation, and the makeup of the committees are always changing.
Right.
So you're going to have different perspectives, depending on who's sitting at that time, or who's absent or whatever.
You don't want to squash creativity either. No question about that. But you want to kind of manage it, right?
Yeah, it's kind of piggybacking on Councilor Clark's thing about interpretation.
Right.
That's the problem,
Mhm.
is that they have a charge. They have to follow the charge.
Right.
And it has to be clear to them what their charge is. It's like I said, we all come from various backgrounds up here.
Right.
And my interpretation of something may be different than Chris's.
But I think that,
But it has to be spelled out clearly of what the charge is. That's how you make an informed decision.
that's the value of this process that you're setting up. We can see, because you'll have people with different opinions, different perspectives there. We'll know where it works and where it doesn't, right? We hope.
I'm sorry, Councilor.
Oh, no problem, thank you. There are 4 seats available for this committee, and if you were not chosen, would you still be inclined to participate, engage, or share opinions and suggestions?
Of course, no question about it.
I hear
I
you.
might not be able to attend every meeting, but we have live streaming available.
Yes, we do. And we don't know when the meetings will be held. It depends on the consensus of the body that will be selected. So thank you very much for being willing to serve.
Sure.
Councilor Jefferson.
I don't really have that much to ask, only because I've seen you in action.
Sure.
And
I'm not sure if that's good.
no, it's amazing because I get a sense like when I listen to you explain, I get a sense of your competence and your experience. I do want to see the 300-page manual that you worked on. That really interests me. It's probably online, right? I probably could Google that and find it. And I could see how some people might be threatened by the level of competency and experience you have. But I think the thing I take away from the amount of interviews that we've done for these two ad hoc committees, and what I love about it, it has really brought forward some of the best and brightest that have been maybe sitting on the sidelines that don't want to come twice a month, every month, ongoing for years, but they say, I know I have something valuable to bring, and I'm gonna jump in now, and who knows what that will lead to in the future for people, but it is knowing that we have such talent in this town, and we have the ability to bring that talent to us to help us solve the most difficult problems, because some of the other stuff is just gonna keep running as it runs, but we have these kind of critical problems that are facing us that need expertise, and I know that you have that expertise, so thank you.
We have to remember to think outside the box. I know that where I come from in Virginia, pretty high-powered area, no question about it. Lots of really smart people, lots of lawyers. I'm not one of those. I think it's important to understand the arena that you're working in, but at the same time recognize that somebody else may be experiencing the same challenges that we are. How are they handling it? Maybe they experienced it 5 years ago and they already figured it out. We need to find out about that sort of thing and look outside the box and try to get good information to inform our decisions. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, our problem isn't particular just to us. I mean, pick up the newspaper, listen to the radio or the TV. It's literally everywhere. And maybe how we solve it might be a little bit different, but there might be something out there that's already a tool in the toolbox that we should be going and getting the wrench, because that's what this problem needs, and it doesn't need a hammer. So,
Right, I agree.
thanks.
You actually addressed the question I was going to ask, because I was very interested in your experience in community visioning, but you've really kind of expressed that, and I love the way you tie things into the visioning processes. Is there anything else you'd like to say about community vision and how we need that here in Barnstable, and what areas we might need it?
So I know this is gonna sound a little crazy, but everything kind of all fits together.
Yeah.
I think here on Cape Cod, we live on a big sandbar, Our natural resources and our environment, it's kind of why a lot of us live here. We don't want all of that to go away because we're gonna be stuck living in a dust bowl, essentially, with climate change coming and all of that. We gotta be protected from all of that, and we have to use what's free, the natural resources in our environment, to protect us from that as much as we can. I think that visioning is really important because you want to make sure, I will just use housing as an example, you want to make sure that affordable housing, workforce housing, is in a place that's going to work well for those future residents. You don't want it to be out in the middle of nowhere. And by that, I mean no access to public transportation. If people living in a facility like that who are in the lower economic strata, they don't have cars. A lot of them don't have, how are they going to get to and from work or to entertainment activities? We have to think about that from a visioning perspective. Where's the best place to put affordable and workforce housing that's going to be useful to the people who live there? That's not necessarily going to be us, because this is future residents, people who are here 20 years from now. We may have moved on to another community and decided to retire somewhere else. We have to think about that in a way that's really strategic. So I have the great fortune of having a husband that works for the World Bank. And when he retired a few years ago, he participates in this organization, the International Association of Impact Assessment. And they do strategic visioning exercises like that in many countries around the world, where they think about where's the best place to put solar? Where's the best place to put housing? Where's the best place to create a town center, for example? They do a lot of these visioning exercises, and I see it in other cities around the world. And it may not be required that we do these kinds of things here. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. We need to be thoughtful about where we spend our resources so that they're in the right place and they'll be in the right place for a really long time. That would be what I would contribute with regard to visioning. I hope that's helpful.
Definitely, thank you.
Sure.
Well, thank you for making a hard job even harder.
Sorry about that.
No, it's just, I have to say, I mean, I couldn't be more proud of this town because we've had some excellent candidates. And it's gonna be very tough. Very tough to pick for instance.
Pick the ones that you think will do the best job in the short amount of time that you got. Because the committee
Yeah.
sunsets, right, in October? That's, oh, by the way, 5 months from now,
Yeah.
we need to be thoughtful about that, I think,
But the work will continue.
oh, no question about it. No question about it.
Yeah, this is just a drop in the bucket. We have a lot of work ahead. Thank you so much for coming in.
I look forward to being a part of that in some way. Thank you so much. Thanks so much.
Sure.
Okay, I look forward. Thanks so much.
Yes.
Thanks so much.
Nice to meet you.
Kristen, nice to meet you.
Hey, Seth, yeah, I stay at the gym every morning.
You? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're a 5 o'clock in the morning guy.
I am.
Yeah, see?
Why,
You got the job. Just this,
Fairfax, Virginia?
Fairfax, Virginia.
I went to Virginia, Texas.
Oh, I know, very well. I know, it well. Great school, Virginia Tech, excellent school. Nice to see you. Thanks so much.
Mhm.
Thank you, Sharon.
I should say, hola.
Hola. ¿Qué tal?
Bien, ¿tú?
¿Cómo estás?
He, teaches my granddaughter Spanish, my Kylie Lowell.
No.
Hey, yeah, you're number one,
Yeah, the,
number one headache.
I can imagine.
Thank you.
Should have been there today.
Good.
And where is it?
He's a teacher at Barnstable High
Honest
School.
lot.
Oh, at the school. you teach.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Etienne, is that Asian?
It is, but, right, yeah,
Well, French.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
The only reason why I know that is Travis Etienne, the running back.
Everyone, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not that smart.
In the group chat, he's just Travis,
Yeah.
or my cousin.
Okay, so we get started. Okay. I don't know if you've watched any of the previous interviews or any of the meetings that we've had. But I always ask the question about compromise. Okay. Because of, the way the town is right now, we have some issues that are going on in town where people are getting very, stuck in their way, calcified, whatever you want to call it. And so can you give us an example in your professional life where you've had to compromise?
Well, I've had to personally compromise.
In your professional life?
Well, it's not that long, to be honest. It's more so, past couple of years of seeing how compromise works and working with people, and you can't always be an absolutist and get your way. It's when you have competing interests, it's taking a step back and seeing, okay, what do we all want? What are the interests involved? Are there aligning goals? And what is overall going to appease the most amount of people? Now, that's not a realistic kind of way of looking at things, because then you have to take into account the power that's implied, the power of money and whatsoever and so forth. But I think back to even this year in teaching, and not just being in the classroom, but above me with my bosses or the principal, even at the district level, seeing like how decisions are made and learning in live time, like, okay, if I want to do this in the classroom and it's going to benefit maybe 15 out of 20 students, but if 1 or 2 students feel uncomfortable about it, then, okay, what are the consequences from that? And do they outweigh the benefits for the rest of the students? Do I appease the 2 students that might be comfortable, or am I looking for the long-term benefit of the 18 other students? And thinking about compromise in that sense, but what?
Interesting. So let me ask you, you're a teacher,
Yes.
so you don't have to give me an exact number, but how many of your students do you think
have housing insecurity? Is that something you've run into?
Yes, I've seen that. It's more than would make me comfortable. And I can only see what's in front of me.
Sure.
And it's very weird to get access to data that shows you which students are of low income, which students do live in split, don't live with both parents, which students are insecure housing wise. And to have that in mind, to think, okay, I'm gonna plan this lesson out and it requires internet access at home. And not every single student is gonna have that. How do I make the lesson equitable to everyone, that everyone has access to it? If I'm going to have a lesson that's gonna require you to speak, and we can't do it in class, I'm gonna assign it for homework. But you live in a situation, you're in a housing situation where it is you and 5 other family members in a hotel room. And it's more than difficult for you to have 20 minutes of quiet time so that I can just see your voice, not everything in the background, and maybe you don't want to have me hear certain conversations happening in the background. And do I have that stress and comfort level with the student for them to explain to me why they couldn't turn assignment on time? Like things like that, and that's just from the classroom level. That's what I see through my students. So I don't have access to the housing insecurity in general, but from what I see through my students and the amount that don't have the same kind of background that I have when I grew up here, it signals to me that the problems are much more greater than I can only imagine. And that's just the one thing that if I was to extrapolate it outwards, that's just the housing situation with households that have children,
Sure.
not young adults that just came here from other places or other countries.
Interesting. Council Clark.
Thank you. You said from when you grew up here, so did you grow up in Barnstable?
Yeah, Highness West, Barnstable Middle School, Barnstable High School.
Wow, you've got a lot of skills under your belt with data collection, speaking Spanish teacher, and your education with architecture.
It's
So
a wild journey that from when I graduated here to going to college, studying abroad, coming back to Virginia Tech, realizing architecture is not what I wanted to do with my life, but realizing when I was abroad that being around different cultures and being a mediator was something that I had a knack for. Something that I built while being like in a fraternity in college and going to different chapters, different campuses, and learning from different organizations, like how to run things, how decisions should be made, how to deal with crises, and how to bring people together. And then seeing how I brought that kind of skill set abroad, not knowing Spanish, but learning French in high school, but learning Spanish abroad, going from architecture to becoming a medical interpreter.
medical interpreter.
Yes.
Oh.
So yeah, I spent that summer abroad, being a volunteer interpreter in villages outside of Quito. And yes, you're saying exactly what the person wants from the doctor. So in a bigger picture, it's different student groups from different colleges in the US would take trips to Ecuador, Colorado, Cincinnati, East Tennessee. Me being the liaison, because I was living abroad there, I would interpret what the American doctor was saying to I don't want to say villager, but the Ecuadorian people that are living outside Quito or different villages in the Andes. So there'd be some kind of small room, would be curtained off, and the American doctor would speak to me. I would translate the English to Spanish. The Ecuadorian would speak back to me in Spanish, and I'll translate back and forth. I would say the coolest experience that I had was when we go to a village, La Caponga, about 12,000 feet above sea level, where the people spoke Quechua. So we needed a second translator. The villager speaks Quechua to my co-translator. Quechua to Spanish, Spanish to English, and back and forth again telephone. And it's less, and even like through that, and even now when I teach kids, it's less about the words, you're not translating word for word, it's all about meaning. So for example, if I say like, how are you, or what's up in a more colloquial English? If you were to translate that word for word, what is up? Oh, well, sky, sea, no, it's literal, no, I'm asking you like, how are you, but we just say what's up.
Yeah.
So it's a more like cultural understanding, the importance of cultural understanding. Like, for example, if there's something wrong with your heart or stomach, I learned very quickly that essentially anywhere in your torso is essentially the same word in Quechua. Like, you would hear the same syllables. I didn't understand what they're saying, but it's the same tone and syllables. Like, kind of interesting. The sense of time is thought differently. So like those little nuances, it's those little tidbits inform me that there's what you see on the surface and there's something that's deeper going on underneath. And bringing that in and I just translating it, but abstracting that to different areas and facets of my life. And that's what I've seen from my architectural education.
Fascinating. So what, drew you to put your hat in the ring and apply for this committee?
I had a friend reach out to me saying that, Seth, you're here now. You're gonna be here for foreseeable future. I think you'd be kind of good at this with your involvement. I'm teaching in school, putting myself more so in the community, but kind of reaching back into my actual education, like using, not building or designing houses, but a lot of what I did in training in school was, okay, how does the building that we design affect the community outwards? And I was always more so interested in urban design rather than the design of a house. I don't, it almost bored me to see like how the wall would come together with the floor or how to fit a window or saying something poetic about shadows in a building. I was more so concerned about how did my designs affect the people? Is my design going to disrupt lives? Is it going to improve lives? Is it going to allow someone to see more light in their household to bring up their mood? Are my designs going to bridge communities together? Is it going to isolate people? I was always more concerned about those questions rather than what can a brick do?
Fascinating. Have you watched any of the zoning meetings or housing meetings?
I have not.
No.
No,
So you are aware of the work that has been done.
I'm not aware.
There, we've had a lot of, there's that there's been a tremendous amount of talent that has come forward for us to consider. If you were not selected for this committee, would you still consider being engaged and attending meetings and participate?
Yes, absolutely. It's from here. I look, it's thinking about this conversation I had with Bill today and seeing like how different the school that I went to that I now teach, how different it is now versus what I went through, and seeing the gap between, for lack of a better term, haves and have-nots. The ones that are growing up with the privilege, that have the security at home, and those who do not. And the divide between the two, the lack of communication between the two. And having a sense, because of my education and training and background, and where I am right now with this conversation, the impact of how much zoning and housing can have on that, and how it seeps out and the ripple effects of that.
Very insightful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, but it's funny you said that. Because a lot of the stuff I hear from constituents is that exact conversation I have and have not. It's really what's tearing this town apart. It really is.
It's,
And people like to put their head in the sand and don't want to confront it. But that's the exact conversation I have, more so than not. Councilor Chuckles.
Would you mind sharing with us what year you graduated? High school, yeah,
2012.
2012. And you mentioned that you're a data collection manager on a task force focused on equity.
Division team, yes.
So what is it?
Division team at Barnstable High School,
Okay,
yes.
okay, so can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, so Barnstable High School currently has a bar grant, a grant from the Bar Foundation.
BAR.
BARR, bar. And essentially, we're looking at different sources of data, different ways to look at what education can be. Because we know that things are broken right now. There's lack of engagement, high absenteeism, a sense of apathy, and I can see it in my classes. It's a problem that really forces me to rethink how I was educated and what education can be. It involves different school visits, different faculty. I've gone to California, Arizona, and most recently Vermont, let's say even New Hampshire, to see how different schools have been run that are similar to our demographics, to see what we can do, what we can be. What I've been tasked with and what I've been more interested in, because taking what I learned from architecture and wanted to shift more into data, because I was always more. I wasn't the best designer, but I was good at giving people constructive criticism, critiquing people, having that sense of detail. But taking something that was visual and then communicating that to other people, and just teaching complicated things to kids. And getting all this data and sifting through it and seeing if there's any through lines and trends. Like what is common between all these different places that have brought them from where they were to where they want to be? What can we do that here? Didn't get the name of the last lady that was here, Kathy. But she mentioned something about her husband working at the World Bank and how she has seen similar successes across the world in different cities. And essentially, in planning that be best practices. If it works in Curitiba, Brazil, then it can work in Medellin. If it can work in Medellin, it can work in Paris. And I wonder, why can that not work here? What's different about those places? What are the variables that are different? And what are the variables here? What similar variables? What can transfer over? She mentioned about housing affordability and like the clear and obvious solution to me, being naive and young that I am, denser housing, walkability. Not everyone has access to a car. Can we build or design a situation where from my house, wherever I live, my house, apartment, wherever, can I be within a 20-minute walk of where I get my groceries, of where I work, of where I need to have entertainment, of where my kids can play and be safe? Like, what are the conditions that we need to construct where that is possible in Hines and Barnstable? Like thinking in those terms.
Have you been following the 307 Main Street project at all?
I am not.
I think for me, what the stumbling block for me is, it's a bit larger development here on the corner of Main Street. Is there's not a grocery store nearby. There's plenty of restaurants, but on the same hand, it's gotten so expensive to eat out. Even just to go get your groceries is expensive, but there's just not a place, there used to be a restaurant, a grocery store here years and years and years ago. But it is that kind of walkability. What things do we sort of have here that sort of support that, but there's some things missing that we don't have here. We don't have a medical center where people could walk and have medical care. We have a CVS so they could go to the pharmacy, but there's not a grocery store where you could get all the things you'd need to have a healthy meal, not just processed foods or not just,
Processed
certain
foods,
things.
like,
Yeah.
I think about my commute to the high school, when I'm driving on West Main Street, Dollar General, Cumbies. Yes, the Star Market, but I think about my students who come to that first block hungry. They had the breakfast at the high school, but when they leave, they need a quick snack. That's what's across the street. That's just a Target. That's a money vacuum.
Yeah.
They have Star Market across the street, but it's if you just need a healthy meal. Especially when I was coaching in the fall, coach soccer.
Yeah.
And seeing my players come to practice, and it's just a Diet Coke that they just got from, or an aqua refresher from
How
Dunkin'.
about a Monster drink
Or a
that costs
Monster drink.
$4 a pop or something?
Like-
Just like,
The health education is one thing, but they can only grab what is just available right next to them, and to think, okay, it's weird to think to myself that I spent all this time in school and I learned about the issues from an academic sense, and then I come back home and it's like, oh wait, this is how it actually works. This is how it actually materializes. Yeah.
thank you.
Welcome.
Council Bloom.
I would encourage you to, you're the future of this town. And I would encourage you to keep on, no matter what happens here, keep on applying for, committees or town positions or stuff like that. You're a very bright guy. And the thing that I really like about you is, how some people have like left brain strengths or right brain, so you got them both. Because first of all, you've got architecture, which is both sides. And then you have language and data analysis, And I think you've got a lot to offer.
It took me way too long as an architect. I don't really see myself as a great designer. It's more so it took me too long, embarrassing so, to realize that I'm an analyst with a design background rather than someone, a designer who just likes to analyze things. And because I was trained in that environment, it's like I can never unthink and unlearn the things I learned in architecture school. But I just apply what I learned about architecture, how it applies to buildings, and just apply for people, organizations, relationships. And I see that in the classroom about different groups of kids. Right now it's like 4:30, so 4.5 hours ago, I had like a nice hour and a half long conversation about a girl who's going to Purdue for engineering. And like her path there. And during the pandemic, I came back and I was her Spanish DA. So it's like I saw her there and now I see her now. It's so beautiful to see the growth and to like talk about, okay, what was your path like in school and where do you want to go? And we can have that conversation. But at the same time, an hour before that, I'm having conversations with kids that just do not want to go to college. That is not their path whatsoever. They're just not interested in it. But I can relate to them on the level of, okay, so do you have a resume? You don't have a resume? Okay, I didn't tell them my full experience, but during the pandemic, I spent a year in the army, and now they're completely
In the
different.
army.
Yeah, and that's a lot of questions with that one. But that was an education in and of itself because it exposed me to a lot of different kinds of people across the country where I had to really break down my preconceptions of what smart is, what smart was, and learning about different walks of life. And then having had that experience, could then talk to the kids who are thinking about, oh, I want to be a badass when I join the Marines. It's like, okay, let's pump the brakes there. So this is what this is what is going to be in front of you. These are the decisions you're going to have to make. I'm not going to give you the right answer. Based on what I have seen, these are the obstacles you face in front of you. Kids, they get the sense that I'm athletic, so I can speak to them about sports and play with them and be their soccer coach. I was nerdy in high school, so I can talk to the kids that more okay, it's books, college, have that conversation. And the takeaway from all of that is the range of perspectives and weighing different options and telling people, okay, these are what the facts say. This is my conclusion. I'm not going to tell you what you should do because I don't know what your end goal is or who you are as a person, what you personally want. But here is what I have found. This is what each and every single thing means at the most basic layman's level. I trust that you're going to make the right decision. And I'm going to treat you as a teacher. I can't say I'm an equal as a student, but I'm more so their guide and an expert. And I have that more approach to them. And because of that, we have more a sense of trust that it can be open about, okay, this is the problem that we both see. This is the solution that you want. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome,
Barnstable High is happy to have you, is lucky to have you.
I guess.
I'm happy there's teachers of your caliber
Yeah,
taking care of our future.
you're not kidding, 'cause I was very worried about something over there.
I'll tell you.
Well, you turned out okay.
Not really.
So, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you. Thanks.
Do you have to go play soccer now?
No, I gotta go break Kylie's work. No, she's not there.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You get your phone.
Oh, yeah, sorry, okay.
Here we go.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Then,
I think it's important to talk about how we want to go about the selection process. Because we have a lot of good candidates, so kind of my vision,
Can I just ask a silly question? Did Dick Converse come in?
Yes.
yes. Kind of my vision is that I'd like to see different people that accomplish that on our board. I'd like to see, for instance, like the four that we have to talk about housing. I think it would be good to have a renter, a homeowner, one or two housing experts. Now, this is just what I think. You know, and the same goes for zoning. I think it's good to have people who actually know about urban design. I think it's good to know, to get a cross section, and, you know, I don't care what the political ideology, I think it'd be great if everybody was opposite. That way we can get a true sense of what the needs are of just not one segment of the population, but everybody. Yeah. What do you guys think?
I have to do something. We took in a lot of information. We have to make that well.
No, but I'm saying we have to come up to, we have to see these people. So I think we should come up with a basic agreement on how we want to structure it, and then we go through our notes.
Do you think 4 is good, or do you think you need to increase it?
I would like to increase it, to be honest with you.
I don't think that's our call.
No, it's not, but I mean, if you ask my opinion, I would like to increase it, because like I said, we have some really good
Yeah.
candidates.
Great people.
I can have a conversation with leadership.
I think we should, I don't know, what do you guys think?
Well, right now for housing, zoning is kind of simple. 5 councils may include up to 4 registered voters in the town.
Mhm.
Provided that the total number be an odd number. That's zoning. Housing says members, 5 councilors may include member from the planning board, 1 member from the housing committee, and 1 member from the comprehensive financial advisory committee. May include up to 3 registered voters in the town, provided that the total membership shall be an odd number. I don't think we had anyone from comprehensive financial advisory committee.
Yeah, but it said may include, not has to include.
No, understood, but I'm just saying, I don't think there's any representative, because Hector, rescinded. He was on.
Because, you know, my overall thing is this. We hear from all these different committees already. It's good, it's just gonna be regurgitating the same thing we've always been hearing. I think that we should really, if we're gonna do this and we want something citizen-based, then we have to take people that aren't in town hall, per se. That's just my opinion. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's my opinion. You know, and if we want to get a true cross-section of the town, and we want to get true opinions of the town, we can't have cogs in the machine being recycled to be cogs in the machine again. That's just my opinion.
I don't totally agree or disagree. I think that, you know, there's a lot of people to kind of ticker tape through. But I also think if there's somebody who really, if they're in another committee and they have something that's really vital to the success of this board, I would not want to exclude them because they're already somewhere else. I wouldn't want to exclude somebody because they're not a renter, or they are a homeowner, or they're, you know, I agree with the underlying sentiment of what you're trying to achieve. But I wouldn't want to feel boxed into a corner, because I think that this is such an important topic that there's so many good people.
Yeah,
That's really gonna be part of it. And if I don't feel like there's somebody in that category that I really feel like will do a good job, I don't wanna just vote for them just because they're you know, they're,
they're home, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I
you know, so.
I agree with you on what you're saying in principle. But we have enough good candidates from all of those different things. And to me, my experience as a homeowner of multiple homes is different than an experience of a renter who's struggling to get a home. We can't sit ad hoc committees like this without getting a cross-section of the people who are affected by the decisions that are gonna be made. And if we're going to sit, and I'm not saying this is what you're suggesting, I'm just,
Yeah,
you know,
I'm listening.
I'm just
Yeah.
giving my argument.
Yeah,
If we don't, select people, various people with various life experiences, then to me, we're doing a disservice to this committee. That's my opinion.
I agree with you conceptually, but with 4 people, it's gonna be hard to be balanced. Gender balanced, geographically balanced, the life experience balanced, so it's already difficult. I'm trying to think, oh, we don't want 4 white guys from Centerville, we don't want, in general, not to.
Yeah, no,
Not to
no.
disparage anyone,
Yeah.
but that's why I wanna comb over the, my notes and their
Well,
application.
I agree with you, but I just need you to understand what I'm saying. We have to come up with parameters of how we're gonna do these selections. Because we're not gonna come to an agreement with everybody. So we have to
And
come up
that's
with, we have to see them,
Understood.
okay? So say I select 4 people, Chai selects 4 different people, we all select different people. We're gonna be here arguing about consensus. So that's why, to me,
we're gonna have to answer your question one at a time.
yeah, so to me, I think that if we come up with a basic outline or structure of what we wanna do and how we wanna do it, because like I said, it's not like we have a lack of worthy candidates from each of those categories. We just have to decide on a board of we just have to decide on either we want the whole town to be represented or not. That's just basically it, because like I said, somebody's opinion that may be different than mine doesn't make their opinion wrong, it just makes it different. And so, like I said, my life experience is gonna be different than your life experience.
Can I ask a point of information just for one of your
Sure.
committees, just so that I'm clear as well, on the housing committee? There's automatically 5 counselors that leadership is gonna look at to place on this committee. Are you also going to, it says may include, but are you looking at a planning board member, a housing committee member, and somebody from CFAC to be on that committee, plus the 3 registered voters?
When you read that, what you're asking is that we can have we can have each of those 3 people from those 2
You
committees.
can have 3
and 3
residents.
residents, because I read it to mean it could be any of the 3 people you choose could be from those committees.
That's how I read
The
it.
only way I'm taking it is provided that the total membership shall be an odd number, so to me, you can encumber the planning board, the CFAC member, the housing member, and 3 residents to come up with ideas and working with the 5. That's the way I took it with the with the statement in the parentheses,
Yeah,
as long as you kept that committee at an odd number, because you need, an odd man
Well,
out.
we'll see with the way that I think is that,
Or are you just gonna have a committee of 8? Which is an even number.
no, I think we have to go with an odd number.
That would mean 5 counselors and 6 other, 6
Right.
residents,
Yeah,
if
so
you
that-
interpreted it that way.
Yes, see, that's the way I interpret it. That we
So
can have,
forego the planning board member, the housing representative member, and the CFAC, and go with all 3 of those as residents, so you're choosing 6 residents
6 residents.
to go with the 5 counselors.
Interpret it that way, but I am not the person who wrote that.
Yeah.
I think we should ask for clarification from leadership.
You can, and I'll get that clarification for you, so that's the main reason why I asked that question, was.
And it's not that I have anything against anybody who's currently serving on boards. It's not that.
Oh, no, it's just to get a fresh perspective.
Well, we need a fresh perspective. You know what I mean? And like I said, I just don't feel that free at large citizens is gonna be, you know, the demographics of the town and the different needs of the town. I just don't think that's enough.
Okay, I will email leadership and ask them what their vision was for this.
I think we've been saying we wanted, a more open community involvement. And I like the idea of having 6, community members on each committee.
Well, we had 6 for this.
I don't care if they have more citizens than counselors. Because, you know, that's okay, because we want citizen.
Yeah, you'll have an odd number, because you'll have 5 counselors and 6 citizens, which is
And
11.
then the other one is just 4.
Yeah, but I have to think about how, I mean, that part is great as far as I'm concerned. But you also talked about how we're gonna, you know, choose them, and that's a different story, and I need to think a little bit more.
Yeah,
about
I'm just spitballing. I'm just telling you what I feel. It doesn't mean that I'm right.
We need to
but-
have ideas thrown out like
Yeah,
that, and then
that's all I'm doing.
only with that can we figure it out.
Yeah, because we have, you know, 50 applications to go through.
Yeah,
To throw a monkey wrench in things, unless I'm wrong, and you would probably be best to help me with this, is I don't think that there was a member of the Comprehensive Financial Advisory Committee who's on our list.
No, if you chose to go that route, then you would get in touch with the chair of CFAC and say, we have an opening on one of our ad hocs for representation of your CFAC committee. Who would you like to recommend serve on that? Is how that normally runs. Or you can go with all 6, then you'd have to interview them.
Yeah.
But you could go with all 6 as residents, because it clearly says may. And I think the reason why that was put on there, and I could be wrong, was the planning board knows the zoning. The housing committee knows the crunch that we're in. CFAC knows the finance part of it. That was the only reason why I think.
And those are legitimate things.
Yeah.
Those are legitimate things. And, you know, but again, I come back to, you know, demographics
Mhm.
and having every voice of this community heard.
But what I can do is reach out to leadership. I'll email them and ask them for clarification
Yeah.
on the membership of the housing. And
we
If-
did have.
if the-
Gunther.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
He withdrew.
he withdrew.
He's.
Oh, he withdrew.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh.
Unless we
I
want to
saw-
try to.
I thought-
yeah, he withdrew this afternoon,
Okay.
before the meeting,
he said he has too much on his plate.
with everything that he's involved with.
Yeah.
CFAC already and, all the other
Yeah,
various
he's-
town
he's-
boards,
yeah.
he's.
He
doing a lot of stuff.
volunteers with the senior center.
Yeah, there's a lot that he
Taxes.
does, and he felt that if he came in for an interview and was placed on the board, he took a seat from somebody that really could devote 100% of their time, that he chose to back off.
So it's the housing that has 6 people, potentially for 6?
If you go with the 5 counselors,
Yeah,
and if you choose to have representative members from each of those boards, that's 3, so that brings your total up to 8. And then with the 3 residents, you have an odd number, which is
Yeah,
11.
but what I'm saying is if we don't take from those three categories, we have 6, the ability.
6
We're
residents,
gonna get that clarified.
right,
And then the zoning is 4 residents?
correct.
But with the 6, there is no representative from CFAC. So, and if they choose not to.
But I
do
think what Jeff is saying is that don't have representatives from those 3 boards and just make all 6 residents.
Mhm.
That's what Jeff is suggesting.
I see.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, I mean, what's the sense of doing all this if we're not getting a true representation of what's really going on?
I like the idea of 6 citizens in each committee,
We
because
can't add 6 to each committee. We only
can't?
get 4 in zoning. That's how it's written.
Yeah,
We're not
Or-
even sure we can get 6 in housing, but we'll
I'm
find
gonna
out.
get
but- yeah,
clarification
that's-
of the other 3 membership, if they intended to have those 3,
oh, so
Be
zoning
represented.
is out for 4.
yeah, zoning's,
It's just gotta be 4.
What we voted on was.
up to,
five
up to 4 registered voters.
and I think that, and I'm not trying to talk out of turn here, but I think that if we were to have 6 residents on housing, who says that planning, a member from CFAC and a member from the housing committee can't be there anyways?
That's why I asked that already.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, if the numbers don't work, they can chime in and say the numbers don't work, or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
I mean, because like I said, to me, if we're gonna do this, let's do it. That's how I feel. If we're gonna. if
You'll
we're
get a
gonna-
broader coverage if we're allowed to put 6 residents on.
Absolutely.
You'll
Absolutely,
get a
because,
broader coverage.
because I mean, even the people that we've interviewed, you know, we probably have at least 30 people that are very well qualified for these positions. We probably do. And out of them, we've got 15 different stories of, if not struggles or concerns or whatever. And if those voices aren't being heard, then what are we doing this for? To me, it's just push a paper. Placate.
On the other hand, the other people who are involved with planning or, you know, they have experience, they can bring some of their past experiences, specific examples of what's worked, what hasn't. So they do have, that to bring to the table. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's fine, but we have had how many urban developers and planners? Did we interview?
At least one, but
At least
Kathy,
two.
the doc-
Her,
Kind
the guy yesterday
Yeah,
The
from
80-year-old,
California,
yeah.
the guy, a
Oh.
week and a half ago.
oh,
I mean, we have
Freeman?
plenty of people who have expertise in this stuff on the level that we need to be at, if not a bigger level. My issue isn't people from CPAC or planning. I respect all those people. They do a great job. But my idea of all of this is to get the true needs of the community. And if we don't have representation of those people, how are we gonna get the true needs of the community and try to come to some kind of consensus? You know, we can't just have 3 citizens and then think we're gonna get the true needs of the community, because that, 6 is gonna be hard enough to cover. So that's my idea.
And we don't want our groups too big, because then
Yeah,
there's just too many people. So what about reducing the number of counselors in each
Well,
committee?
that may have to be done, but I've gotta talk to leadership about that because
What does it say, Chris,
there's
about,
like
about
5
the number of
committees.
counselors?
Five.
There are 5.
It says
We're on
there shall be 5,
Yeah.
something to that effect.
But if you
No.
average out 5 committees and 13 councilors, you all would have to serve on at least 2 to get it all done, to get all 5 done.
and I didn't volunteer for any.
And either did some others just don't have the time.
Yeah, I just,
They don't have the time. So we literally have 1, 2, 3, 6 counselors that put in what they wanted to do.
We're all gonna be living here. We're gonna be
Yeah, I know.
from up on that.
So, that's why it's gonna be
Therefore,
interesting
more
to see, you may
reasons.
have to reduce some of the leadership may have to reduce some of them, 3 counselors on each one.
well, like I said, this is kind of the problem about doing things like the way that we've done it. Is that in the spirit of what we're trying to do, I understand it.
Mhm.
But we can't sit here and have,
And meet to meet.
well, meet to meet, and not only just meet to meet, but we can't get true engagement with the community if the community isn't represented.
Right.
That's just the bottom line. And three people at large doesn't represent the community. It just doesn't.
Like you're saying, you should have a renter, a homeowner, a business owner,
Yeah,
somebody that hires people that can't get housing here or keep their help here.
yeah, I mean.
So your van gets expanded.
Yeah, and it doesn't, and we can talk to leadership, talk to Felicia, and possibly have 6 citizens, and then maybe a member from CFAC, a member from planning, and a member from housing sit in on the meetings so they can give it direction or say, we can't do that because of X, Y, Z,
Right.
but not actually be participatory.
Voting members.
You know what I mean?
Now she'll be voting members.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking.
Mhm.
Because we hear enough from all of those people anyways.
Mhm.
We hear enough from planning. We hear enough from CPAC. We hear enough from all those people.
Yeah.
So to me, it has to be more organic,
Right.
to me.
Mhm.
Hey, Jim,
Hi, how are you?
good. So that's what I think it is.
Absolutely.
So, So if you speak with leadership and explain this latest conversation, I have the next council meeting on, May 16th. So do we want to meet before that?
Oh, my goodness.
We're gonna have,
We're supposed to be done today.
yeah,
I realize, so,
Tomorrow we have, is the first council meeting, yeah.
so that we can announce that we've completed the interviews. But we should have a time, our next meeting ready to,
yeah, I think that we meet
for the truth.
Monday, Tuesday, if possible. Friday, I'm not gonna do it. I'll tell you that right now, I'm not living here. Yeah.
Combinations aren't that bad.
Monday, Tuesday.
No, they're not, but I need to pay my bills. See if I can, isn't paying common electric for me, that's for sure.
So you're looking at, the sixth and the seventh?
That's fine with me. It just has to be in the afternoon.
The 7th is not great for me.
Okay, how about the sixth and the eighth?
I can't do, I've got a chiropractic appointment, 2:00. and
Okay.
If I let go
How
of
can
it,
you
it'll
take
be
care of
like
yourself?
eight
But we
months
can have
before
it-
I can get back in, you know.
We can have it after your, unless you're gonna be laid up. We can have it.
No, I'll be fine.
Because we don't have interviews.
But I don't
so-
know, it's the first time I've gone to, because my chiropractor died a few
Yeah.
months ago,
Oh,
and,
of course.
so this is the first appointment. I have no idea how long it's gonna be.
That's on the 8th. We're talking about the 6th, right? Monday, the 6th?
Yeah.
Well, Monday, the sixth is open,
Okay,
but you had mentioned the sixth and the eighth.
yes,
And that's the day that, on the eighth is the day that,
because, Counselor Turkelson can't do the seventh. She's got patients
Yeah.
on Tuesdays.
so I could do the eighth, but I just don't know when.
How about the
I'd be out of there.
6th?
Sixth is good.
Good.
All right, what time on the sixth would you like to meet? After 4 p.m.?
Earlier the better for me. I mean,
Okay,
I have a resident, meeting set from at 1:30.
okay.
So 3:30, I think, we go.
I mean, I don't know how long it's gonna take, but I'll just.
Is 4:00 better?
No, I'll just make sure I'm done. 3:30 is fine.
3:30,
Okay, 3:30 on Monday. And then I'll get that posted tomorrow.
And then we can, I guess Monday, we can come up with our next meeting time, June, 40
Okay.
hours, right?
Yeah, I only need 48 hours.
So we can do it Wednesday or Thursday. If we have to.
So what will be our goal for Monday?
Monday, I will list everybody that you've interviewed on each committee and you just start discussing each one.
Okay, right, I'm just checking.
Why don't we start with the, zoning?
You want to
Because
do zoning
That's
on
less
one?
complicated till we get some resolution out of that makeup on the,
I'll have a resolution by tomorrow, so I can tell you guys what they said, you know, when everybody comes to the town council meeting.
Mhm.
So do you want me to put them both on or just zoning on Monday?
I think see, this is why we need to get parameters, because we can at least start eliminating candidates on our own.
Mhm.
This is what I'm talking about. So we're prepared, so we're not coming in here and we have 50 names that we have to go through. If we can each come up with a few names that we like, then we can discuss it at that time and possibly get it all done.
Well, I have to list everybody anyway that you interviewed.
Yeah, no, that's fine, but what I'm saying is,
Homework on the side, you guys
Yeah.
can choose on your
So,
own who you
as
think.
soon as we get an answer from leadership,
Okay,
then we can kind of break down then we can kind of do it as we want. So
Okay.
let's get that first.
all right.
We'll put them both on. But if we have to,
Maybe we should just choose one committee for the Monday.
well, what I'm saying, Charlie, is this. For instance, if, say, that we can appoint 10 people.
Mhm.
6 for housing, 4 for, zoning. We come up with 4 or 5 names. And then we discuss it. I mean, it's not that complicated, at least to me, it's not. Because we can put both things on the agenda, but just do zoning. But I'm saying, why close it off when we may be able to get this stuff done in one fell swoop?
If we can get it
Yeah.
done, yeah.
Because we can put both on the agenda, And then if we can't get the housing, then we just postpone it to the next agenda, to the next meeting.
I'm not sure how easy it's gonna be to come up with that 4 names or 6 names.
Well, what I'm saying is this, just forget about that, okay? What I'm saying is this, we put it on the agenda just in case we can.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily have to vote on
No, it could be put on the
it.
next.
But we have to put on the next thing, that's what I'm saying, but it has to be on the agenda.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do.
And you'll give us the 2 lists of names of all the people that applied for both committees, like tomorrow, if you,
I'll give it to you tonight as soon as I get home.
I haven't. I'm not responsible. I have my own list, so I know where I am and what's going on.
Yeah, no, I'll send it
I
to you
mean, the
tonight.
people on both lists, so,
Yeah.
you know.
We should check with Seth if he can make the 6th at 3:30.
I'll email him. I'll take care of it. I'll email him tonight and ask if he's available.
Thank you, that's helpful. All right, good to go.
I'm ready when you are.
Move to adjourn.
Wait, don't you have 2 other people coming? Are they not coming at all?
Lauren
Ron?
Catapon.
No, Lori, withdrew.
Lauren, Catapon withdrew?
Yes, I have an email from her. That's who I've been corresponding with.
Oh, okay.
She had, something to do with her mother today. And, she apologized.
What about Peter?
Peter Hansen never filled out an application. I sent him an email, 3 emails asking him to fulfill an application. He never did. So all I have is an email, and then I sent them both dates that we were interviewing for these ad hoc committees, and he didn't respond to them. I even CC'd his counselor, Counselor Crowe, to see if maybe he could have a conversation with him, and I don't know if it ever happened, but I
I
never
just
heard.
making sure that we're not.
And Hector was-
Right.
Oh, no.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Cindy's very thorough, please take that back. All right, homework.
Right.
All right.
No, we can vote.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? You are adjourned at 5:02 PM.